consulted. That is why the Donald Trump, the president, has announced this ceasefire on the social truth. Even today, there are some statements of Donald Trump where he is backtracking from the things what he has said yesterday, and he is saying that.
And Ashraf, like you said, that the next few hours are very critical on that front to really know who stands where. Hoping that the ceasefire continues. 15 days is what was announced, but will we see either side break that agreement, not resort to the ceasefire, mount an attack? Next few hours extremely crucial. We keep you ahead on this story. Thank you, Ashraf, for joining us. We now move on to our special segment. Violations. First, of course, as Iran had laid the condition that there should be no attack on Lebanon, but Israel went on to say that their fight against the Hezbollah continues and they will not stop the attacks in Lebanon on the Hezbollah strongholds. That, of course, is a violation of what Iran has laid as a condition as part of ceasefire. And, of course, Trump reiterating once again that if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened, then America will not hold back from staying put to its commitment to the ceasefire. Let me take this to my colleague Ashraf joining us on the broadcast with further details of what's the inside story behind this post being deleted.
Yes, absolutely. You are right that there are still the clouds on this ongoing proposed talks in Islamabad on 10th, that is tomorrow. And probably this is due to the ceasefire violations what had been reported by the Iran, because the first initial draft, what was posted on the Twitter by the Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, which announced in fact that there are being talks held between the Iran and US in Islamabad, and there was clearly mentioned that the ceasefire is on all the fronts, including the Lebanon. But yesterday we have seen, even today, that how ruthlessly the IDF and Israel is bombing the Lebanon, and one of the violent days was yesterday when more than 250 people got killed and hundreds of strikes were carried out on the alleged Hezbollah centers across the Lebanon, including the capital Beirut. And since yesterday, there were the statements coming out from the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Kalibaf, as well as from the Foreign Minister, that if the initial terms and the ceasefire is being violated, despite the commitment from the American President Donald Trump, that they will not be the part of this negotiation. So still there are the clouds. It is not yet clear whether these talks will held tomorrow or not, because so far the team from the Iran has not yet been announced. So probably within some hours the picture will be clear whether these talks will go on or the Iran, as it is expected, will pull back from these talks, because a lot of statements had been come out from the Washington. Also, one of the spokesmen of Foreign Affairs said that the 10 points on which the Donald Trump, the president, mentioned that the talks are around those 10 demands by the Iran. And the foreign spokesman from the White House said that that demand has been put in the dustbin. That means there is the clear indication that probably US is not serious in these talks. And what the Iran was suggesting that the always US has taken time to just to push another war on the Iran, what happened earlier in 2025, as well as in the recent war. Among the talks, the America was attacked. Probably that caution is still being taken by the Iran.
So really, Ashraf, for our viewers to better understand this, firstly, what are the violations on both sides? Because the Strait of Hormuz obviously is the big point for America, and whether that is open, how exactly is Iran complying as far as the opening of the Strait of Hormuz is concerned and the passing of the oil vessels is concerned. Secondly, Israel still mounting the attacks against the Hezbollah strongholds in Lebanon, which is a clear violation for Iran. So in that sense, who is not really following what had been decided upon? And then you're saying within a few hours there will be clarity on whether the talks will happen in Islamabad tomorrow. But when will that be? What are the sort of statements? Will White House release an official statement? Will Iran clearly spell out whether they're coming back to the negotiating table? When will we know?
Actually, it is very important to understand for our viewers also, because actually the Iran was not ready for any kind of ceasefire. They were always saying that this war has been pushed on them. They had been attacked, and not only this time but also last year. And the war has been started by the Iran and by the America, and it will be concluded by the Iran. But by the lot of pressure from the allies of the Iran, as well as the main role by the Chinese, finally the Iranians were ready to negotiate and agree for the ceasefire of 15 days. But since this ceasefire was announced, we have seen the different stories. First of all, on the yesterday early in the morning, the Prime Minister of Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, himself said that the Lebanon is away from this ceasefire, and then he started attacking the Lebanon and carried out one of the deadliest days in the history of Lebanon, where 250 people got killed, 2,600 got injured in a single day in a small and teeny country. Then also Benjamin Netanyahu is known to always has sabotaged any kind of ceasefire deal, whether in the Gaza ceasefire or even in the Iran ceasefire. So there is some lot of pressure from the domestic politics on the Benjamin Netanyahu, because he has achieved nothing. He pushed Donald Trump in this war and gave some confidence that they are going to achieve many goals. Particularly for the Israel, none of those goals had been so far achieved in those 39 days of war between US, Israel and Iran. So that is the biggest hurdle. And even now, when there are still the stage being set for the negotiations, the Benjamin Netanyahu clearly said that he has been taken in confidence by the US President Donald Trump, and even before announcing the ceasefire, he was consulted. But on other side, it seems that he was not consulted. That is why the Donald Trump, the president, has announced this ceasefire on the social truth. Even today,
Right.
there are some statements of Donald Trump
Right.
where he is backtracking from the things what he has said yesterday, and he is saying that.
And Ashraf, like you said, that the next few hours are very critical on that front to really know who stands where. Hoping that the ceasefire continues. 15 days is what was announced, but will we see either side break that agreement, not resort to the ceasefire, mount an attack? Next few hours extremely crucial. We keep you ahead on this story. Thank you, Ashraf, for joining us. We now move on to our special segment. Violations. First, of course, as Iran had laid the condition that there should be no attack on Lebanon, but Israel went on to say that their fight against the Hezbollah continues and they will not stop the attacks in Lebanon on the Hezbollah strongholds. That, of course, is a violation of what Iran has laid as a condition as part of ceasefire. And, of course, Trump reiterating once again that if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened, then America will not hold back from staying put to its commitment to the ceasefire. Let me take this to my colleague Ashraf Fani, joining us on the broadcast with further details of what's the inside story behind this post being deleted.
Yes, absolutely. You are right that there are still the clouds on this ongoing proposed talks in Islamabad on 10th, that is tomorrow. And probably this is due to the ceasefire violations what had been reported by the Iran, because the first initial draft, what was posted on the Twitter by the Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, which announced in fact that there are being talks held between the Iran and US in Islamabad, and there was clearly mentioned that the ceasefire is on all the fronts, including the Lebanon. But yesterday we have seen, even today, that how ruthlessly the IDF and Israel is bombing the Lebanon, and one of the violent days was yesterday when more than 250 people got killed and 100 strikes were carried out on the alleged Hezbollah centers across the Lebanon, including the capital Beirut. And since yesterday, there were the statements coming out from the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Kalibaf, as well as from the Foreign Minister, that if the initial terms and the ceasefire is being violated, despite the commitment from the American President Donald Trump, that they will not be the part of this negotiation. So still there are the clouds. It is not yet clear whether these talks will held tomorrow or not, because so far the team from the Iran has not yet been announced. So probably within some hours the picture will be clear whether these talks will go on or the Iran, as it is expected, will pull back from these talks, because a lot of statements had been come out from the Washington. Also, one of the spokesmen of Foreign Affairs said that the 10 points on which the Donald Trump, the president, mentioned that the talks are around those 10 demands by the Iran. And the foreign spokesman from the White House said that that demand has been put in the dustbin. That means there is the clear indication that probably US is not serious in these talks. And what the Iran was suggesting that the always US has taken time to just to push another war on the Iran, what happened earlier in 2025, as well as in the recent war. Among the talks, the America was attacked. Probably that caution is still being taken by the Iran.
So really, Ashraf, for our viewers to better understand this, firstly, what are the violations on both sides? Because the Strait of Hormuz obviously is the big point for America, and whether that is open, how exactly is Iran complying as far as the opening of the Strait of Hormuz is concerned and the passing of the oil vessels is concerned. Secondly, Israel still mounting the attacks against the Hezbollah strongholds in Lebanon, which is a clear violation for Iran. So in that sense, who is not really following what had been decided upon? And then you're saying within a few hours there will be clarity on whether the talks will happen in Islamabad tomorrow. But when will that be? What are the sort of statements? Will White House release an official statement? Will Iran clearly spell out whether they're coming back to the negotiating table? When will we know?
Actually, it is very important to understand for our viewers also, because actually the Iran was not ready for any kind of ceasefire. They were always saying that this war has been pushed on them. They had been attacked, and not only this time but also last year. And the war has been started by the Iran and by the America, and it will be concluded by the Iran. But by the lot of pressure from the allies of the Iran, as well as a main role by the Chinese, finally the Iranians were ready to negotiate and agree for the ceasefire of 15 days. But since this ceasefire was announced, we have seen the different stories. First of all, on the yesterday early in the morning, the Prime Minister of Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, himself said that the Lebanon is away from this ceasefire, and then he started attacking the Lebanon and carried out one of the deadliest days in the history of Lebanon, where 250 people got killed, 2,600 got injured in a single day in a small and tiny country. Then also Benjamin Netanyahu is known to always has sabotaged any kind of ceasefire deal, whether in the Gaza ceasefire or even in the Iran ceasefire. So there is some lot of pressure from the domestic politics on the Benjamin Netanyahu, because he has achieved nothing. He pushed Donald Trump in this war and give some confidence that they are going to achieve many goals, particularly for the Israel. None of those goals had been so far achieved in those 39 days of war between US, Israel and Iran. So that is the biggest hurdle. And even now, when there are still the stage being set for the negotiations, the Benjamin Netanyahu clearly said that he has been taken in confidence by the US President Donald Trump, and even before announcing the ceasefire, he was consulted. But on other side, it seems that he was not consulted. That is why the Donald Trump, the president, has announced this ceasefire on the social truth. Even today,
Right.
there are some statements of Donald Trump,
Right.
where he is backtracking from the things what he has said yesterday, and he is saying that.
And Ashraf, like you said, that the next few hours are very critical on that front to really know who stands where. Hoping that the ceasefire continues. 15 days is what was announced, but will we see either side break that agreement, not resort to the ceasefire, mount an attack? Next few hours extremely crucial. We keep you ahead on this story. Thank you, Ashraf, for joining us. We now move on to our special segment. Violations. First, of course, as Iran had laid the condition that there should be no attack on Lebanon, but Israel went on to say that their fight against the Hezbollah continues and they will not stop the attacks in Lebanon on the Hezbollah strongholds. That, of course, is a violation of what Iran has laid as a condition as part of ceasefire. And, of course, Trump reiterating once again that if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened, then America will not hold back from staying put to its commitment to the ceasefire. Let me take this to my colleague Ashraf Ani, joining us on the broadcast with further details of what's the inside story behind this post being deleted.
Yes, absolutely. You are right that there are still the clouds on this ongoing proposed talks in Islamabad on 10th, that is tomorrow. And probably this is due to the ceasefire violations what had been reported by the Iran, because the first initial draft, what was posted on the Twitter by the Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, which announced in fact that there are being talks held between the Iran and US in Islamabad, and there was clearly mentioned that the ceasefire is on all the fronts, including the Lebanon. But yesterday we have seen, even today, that how ruthlessly the IDF and Israel is bombing the Lebanon, and one of the violent days was yesterday when more than 250 people got killed and hundreds of strikes were carried out on the alleged Hezbollah centers across the Lebanon, including the capital Beirut. And since yesterday, there were the statements coming out from the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Kalibaf, as well as from the Foreign Minister, that if the initial terms and the ceasefire is being violated, despite the commitment from the American President Donald Trump, that they will not be the part of this negotiation. So still there are the clouds. It is not yet clear whether these talks will held tomorrow or not, because so far the team from the Iran has not yet been announced. So probably within some hours the picture will be clear whether these talks will go on or the Iran, as it is expected, will pull back from these talks, because a lot of statements had been come out from the Washington. Also, one of the spokesmen of Foreign Affairs said that the 10 points on which the Donald Trump, the president, mentioned that the talks are around those 10 demands by the Iran. And the foreign spokesman from the White House said that that demand has been put in the dustbin. That means there is the clear indication that probably US is not serious in these talks. And what the Iran was suggesting that the always US has taken time to just to push another war on the Iran, what happened earlier in 2025, as well as in the recent war. Among the talks, the America was attacked. Probably that caution is still being taken by the Iran.
So really, Ashraf, for our viewers to better understand this, firstly, what are the violations on both sides? Because the Strait of Hormuz obviously is the big point for America, and whether that is open, how exactly is Iran complying as far as the opening of the Strait of Hormuz is concerned and the passing of the oil vessels is concerned. Secondly, Israel still mounting the attacks against the Hezbollah strongholds in Lebanon, which is a clear violation for Iran. So in that sense, who is not really following what had been decided upon? And then you're saying within a few hours there will be clarity on whether the talks will happen in Islamabad tomorrow. But when will that be? What are the sort of statements? Will White House release an official statement? Will Iran clearly spell out whether they're coming back to the negotiating table? When will we know?
Actually, it is very important to understand for our viewers also, because actually the Iran was not ready for any kind of ceasefire. they were always saying that this war has been pushed on them. They had been attacked, and not only this time but also last year. And the war has been started by the Iran and by the America, and it will be concluded by the Iran. But by the lot of pressure from the allies of the Iran, as well as the main role by the Chinese, finally the Iranians were ready to negotiate and agree for the ceasefire of 15 days. But since this ceasefire was announced, we have seen the different stories. First of all, on the yesterday early in the morning, the Prime Minister of Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, himself said that the Lebanon is away from this ceasefire. And then he started attacking the Lebanon and carried out one of the deadliest days in the history of Lebanon, where 250 people got killed, 2,600 got injured in a single day in a small and tiny country. Then also Benjamin Netanyahu is known to always has sabotaged any kind of ceasefire deal, whether in the Gaza ceasefire or even in the Iran ceasefire. So there is some lot of pressure from the domestic politics on the Benjamin Netanyahu, because he has achieved nothing. He pushed Donald Trump in this war and gave some confidence that they are going to achieve many goals, particularly for the Israel. None of those goals had been so far achieved in those 39 days of war between US, Israel and Iran. So that is the biggest hurdle. And even now, when there are still the stage being set for the negotiations, the Benjamin Netanyahu clearly said that he has been taken in confidence by the US President Donald Trump, and even before announcing the ceasefire, he was consulted. But on other side, it seems that he was not consulted. That is why the Donald Trump, the president, has announced this ceasefire on.
Coming in from Iran, Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf has said, and I quote him here, after the violation of 3 key clauses of the 10-point proposal, a bilateral ceasefire or negotiation is unreasonable. This is a huge statement saying that the negotiation is unreasonable because 3 key clauses of the 10-point proposal have been broken already. Ashraf Vani joining me for the latest on that. Ashraf had extensively reported from Lebanon all these days. Ashraf, what are these 3 clauses that from the 10-point proposal that Iran is saying is now going to break the negotiations?
Pooja, actually the biggest point is that as per the tweet of the Shahbaz Sharif, Prime Minister of Pakistan,
yes,
as well as endorsed by the President of America, Donald Trump, that the ceasefire will be on every and each front, including in Lebanon. But we have seen yesterday, since the announcement by the US President for this ceasefire, the Israel as well as the Benjamin Netanyahu has escalated the aggression against the Lebanon, one of the worst attacks in this war on Lebanon. More than 200 people killed, more than 1,000 are injured, 100 bombings during the span of 10 minutes. So that was a big provocation for this ceasefire as far as the Iran is concerned. Second thing is that there is not any clear thing neither in the proposed ceasefire announcement nor in the points that what will be the status of Strait of Hormuz, as now Iran says that Strait of Hormuz is already closed for the ships and other oil tankers, and its control will remain with the IRGC and Iran. So these are the main 2 points. And the third one is also that there is clearly, which has been rejected by the America, the Foreign Office, that they have not endorsed all these 10 points. But on other side, when this ceasefire was announced, US President Donald Trump himself said that they have received the list of 10 pointers which are negotiable. But it was clear since yesterday that the clouds are looming on this ceasefire deal, as it was already broken by the Israel, who are the main stakers as far as this whole war is concerned, a party in it. When they have not endorsed this ceasefire, that was sure that there are going to be the casualties in this ongoing ceasefire, and probably now the big question is whether these talks...
From the signs, Ashraf, and please stay on with me, it appears that the ceasefire could already be over, not on its way to conclude already, could have already broken apart. And I say that because let's go across to the next breaking news coming in about what Iran is saying. Iran is warning of a long war if the talks fail. That's what Iran has said. Let's go across to that. This is the latest statement coming in. The ISNA quoting the Iranian army spokesperson. We hope the negotiations reach a decisive outcome. If not, we are prepared for a long war. Iranian president's assistant says any aggression or violation of the ceasefire will be met with a strict and immediate response. Ashraf Ghani continues to be with us. Ashraf, barely 24 hours ago, we had a ceasefire agreement from both sides, Iran and the USA. And since morning, we have seen that there are not only strikes in different places, including Lebanon, but this is Iran saying, oh, we are ready for a long war. So the threatening nature is still there in the picture.
There is reason behind it, Pooja. Actually, we have seen last year the 12 days war when there was negotiation going on between the America and the Iran on the nuclear deal, and amid those talks, the Iran was attacked first by Israel, then by the US, and also same scenario in this war, which started on 28th of February when the talks were underway between US and the Iran in Geneva. Three rounds were already completed for those negotiations, and Oman was mediating those talks. And amid those talks, the jointly US as well as the Israel targeted Againt and assassinated the supreme leader of the Iran. Since then, there was a stand by the Iran that they will not trust on the negotiations or the trap, what they are saying, of the ceasefire or talks with US is this time. And they clearly mentioned on day one that this war has been started by the US and Israel, but Iran is going to conclude it. And even they threatened even then that they are going for the regional war, and it depends on them when they are going to conclude it. But after the pressure from the Chinese, actually what was told by Donald Trump and the White House also, Iran get agreed for the ceasefire of the 15 days. But now we are seeing that since this announcement of this ceasefire, which was agreed by the both parties,
yes,
there are already the disputes on different points, different issues, even in the US, because the Foreign Office of the US early morning today said that the 10 points which were proposed by the Iran had been already rejected. That proposal was thrown in the dustbin.
And there is more from the ground, Ashraf. Stay on with me. I'm getting constant updates from West Asia right now. Remember, there have been strikes reported from Lebanon, that Israel has fired toward Lebanon, and that's basically been against Hezbollah, but it has led to casualties on the ground as well. Here's what a response coming in from Iran. Let's take a look at what the Iranian regime has said about what's unfolding in Lebanon. Ismail Ghani from Iran is warning of a severe punishment after Lebanon strikes. Now, Ismail Ghani basically is a brigadier level position. He's the commander of Iran's Quds force. He's warning that those responsible for recent strikes in Lebanon will face severe and regret-inducing punishment. He's accusing Benjamin Netanyahu of escalating the violence, alleging Israel's actions targeted civilians, reflected extreme brutality. Ghani has added that this is full of crimes against humanity, particularly against women and children, and that retaliation will follow. The region, while there is no specific response or timeline that has been detailed, but we know that there is a possibility of further escalation in the region. Ashraf Ghani, who reported from Lebanon a few days ago, is with us. Ashraf, first tell me and help us understand, why is Ismail Ghani, an Iranian commander, speaking so heavily on Lebanon? And secondly, what is the damage you are hearing that have come in from strikes? Because Iran is saying women, children, civilians were targeted. What kind of strikes have happened in Lebanon from your sources?
Absolutely, that is in the public domain, Pooja. This was one of the worst attacks. 100 aerial strikes during the span of 10 minutes, and that also across the Lebanon on Wednesday, and more than 250 people killed, most of them children, women, and the civilians, not Hezbollah fighters and Hezbollah members, what the Israelis claim. That is the clear indication. Not only the Lebanese government has criticized it and also raised the questions about this dangerous attack on the Lebanon, but even the most countries in the world, including the Australia, including the France, they have also said that this was a ruthless attack on the Lebanon, on the civilians, in fact. And that is why the Iranians are now saying that they are going to target the Israel and even the Hezbollah, because you said that why he is speaking in it. Hezbollah is one of the powerful, we can say, proxy of the Iran, which is fighting with the Israel on its northern borders. The Lebanon and the Israel share the border in the northern part of Israel. And this is not the today's, but even for the decades, both sides had been in the war. In fact, in '86, the incursion was made by the Israel, then they were pushed back by the Hezbollah. And now, again, since the Gaza war, the Hezbollah and the Israel are in war here in Lebanon.
Well, clearly, while it's Lebanon, it's going to drag Iran and eventually the USA as well. Ashraf, please continue to stay with us, because there may be a brief halt, a dramatic pause, so to say, but I don't think there's peace. I don't think there's silence coming in. Even the weapons haven't fallen silent, because the messaging from Washington is anything but not really about a conciliation. Donald Trump is now claiming a productive regime change in Iran. Who is he referring to? Because if there is at all a regime change, there's a Khamenei already in charge. But there are red lines being drawn. No uranium enrichment, removal of nuclear material, constant surveillance, all of that again being mentioned by the US president. And a clear warning that Iran will face a flat 50% tariff, no exemption, no exception. So the big question is Iran going to back out or already backing out from Islamabad talks? Confusion is deepening. Look at the reactions that are coming in from America and from Iran, both sides again threatening and warning of a long war. The first round of US-Iran talks were set to begin this Saturday and in Pakistan. USA already ready to send a high-level delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance as part of the efforts to capitalize on the ceasefire. But the tone is extremely cautious. Tehran is making it clear that there is a trust deficit. Military forces clearly are on a high alert, both for American troops and for Iranian troops. All arrangements, including Hormuz, are still temporary. It needs a lot of coordination and clearance to clear those ships that are passing through. So are we looking at perhaps that ceasefire already ending?
Iran's defeat is America's retribution for every American loss to Iranian terror, especially those brave troops killed by Iranian-made roadside bombs in Iraq that my generation knows so well, and for the suffering their regime has inflicted around the world. Now we have a chance at real peace and a real deal. The War Department, for now, has done its part. We stand ready in the background to ensure Iran upholds every reasonable term. And as everyone knows, nobody makes a better deal than President Trump. No other president has shown the courage and resolve of this commander-in-chief. President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come.
So this time there is a big gap of trust, and it is understandable why Iran has not any trust to other side. So this time Iran should be even more cautious than previous times and should be more vigilant than previous times.
I can announce that the president is dispatching his negotiating team led by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Mr. Kushner to Islamabad for talks this weekend. The first round of those talks will take place on Saturday morning local time, and we look forward to those in-person meetings.
Let's try and understand what expert observers are saying over this conflict. India Today's Rajdeep Sardesai interacted with former British officer and author, retired General Sir Alexander Richard David Sharif, over the Strait of Hormuz specifically, which is the big flashpoint. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
There was no clear idea of how the war would end. and they failed to, the American leadership, Trump particularly and Hegseth, failed to recognize the importance of the Strait of Hormuz. And let's be clear, the American military have been wargaming the implications of an attack on Iran for 20 years or so. And they have absolutely wargamed to death the implications for the Strait of Hormuz. And they would have known very, very clearly what Iran was likely to do. But that was ignored by Trump in a state of hubris, the assumption that the all-powerful American military could bomb Iran into submission. Bombing as a campaign has been proven again and again in history not to work. And yet again, it has not worked.
So how do you see this now play out? Negotiations reportedly will start on Friday. Do you believe this fragile ceasefire will hold? Do you believe Trump's hubris will return to haunt him? That if there are commentators like yourself who say that this is the worst US disaster since Vietnam, that it will prick his ego somewhere and he will then look at ways in which he can once again resume hostilities. Do you see that happening, or do you believe this ceasefire will hold?
We can assume no rational thinking from President Trump. I think he's deranged. I think the tweet, the post last night about genocide, the post he put out on Easter Sunday about Iran, and also demonstrates a degree of derangement, confusion, irrationality, which is a global danger, frankly. So I don't know where these negotiations will go. I think the chances of them succeeding are very remote.
It's just been a day that a ceasefire was announced and the whole world took a sigh of relief. But now US President Donald Trump has issued a sharp warning to Iran, signaling that the situation is still fragile. The US President says America's military forces are already deployed in and around Iran and will stay put until what he would believe a real agreement is fully achieved. The two sides entered into what did look like a 2-week ceasefire phase, but in a strong message he has said, no nuclear weapons, insisting that the Strait of Hormuz will be open and has to be safe. He's also making it clear that American ships and aircraft and personnel will remain in position till compliance is ensured. And if the deal falls flat, there would be a bigger, better, stronger war than ever before. So this is what is happening right now. But the focus is coming in now on the supposed mediator, Pakistan. Pakistan Prime Minister already was jumping, saying about social media statements how they are the ones who've been able to mediate. But now the New York Times, citing sources, has revealed what happened before the ceasefire was announced by US President Trump. The newspaper claims that while Donald Trump was issuing strong threats to Iran, he was also seeking a ceasefire. The White House reviewed and approved the Pakistan Prime Minister's ceasefire post in which he urged Trump to agree to a truce. Trump in response announced the ceasefire. But the edit history of Pakistan Prime Minister suggested a different angle here. Now, the media team appeared to have edited the post in a hurry, but screenshots were already taken and were circulated about what looked like a draft message. External Affairs Minister Ajay Shankar, speaking at an all-party meeting on the West Asia crisis, called out Pakistan, said India cannot act as a dalal nation. Now, the peace dove that was released during a PSL match, and we'll put out that picture in just a short while, there was a peace dove that was released during a PSL match to highlight Pakistan's role to facilitate the ceasefire. So already a congratulations and a symbolic message on that. But the moment drew in fact trolling online. Reports emerged that the truce already is collapsing. So there is global recognition that Pakistan is aiming for, especially for Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir. Now, many are even saying they should get the Nobel Peace Prize. Pakistani news channels are all out. They want to credit the country's civilian and military leadership for pushing diplomatic efforts, backing the ceasefire initiative, and calling this a major step toward regional stability.
जो कुछ किया हमारी लीडरशिप ने, उसके बाद मैं ये कहूंगा कि पाकिस्तान के प्राइम मिनिस्टर और फील्ड मार्शल सईद आसिम मुनीर ये इस वक्त वेल डिजर्विंग कैंडिडेट हैं, बल्कि दुनिया के वाइज ये दो ही लोग ऐसे हैं जिनको नोबेल पीस प्राइज मिलना चाहिए। प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप के हवाले से तो हमने उनको नॉमिनेट किया था, अब मेरे ख्याल के मुताबिक दुनिया के मुख्तलिफ ममालिक को यकसुई के साथ इन दोनों को नॉमिनेट करना चाहिए फॉर द नोबेल पीस प्राइज, क्योंकि बात यह है कि ये 15 दिन का जो पॉज आया है जंग के अंदर, जो जंगबंदी हुई है, ये भी पाकिस्तान की डिप्लोमेटिक विक्ट्री है। पाकिस्तान ने जिस अंदाज में मौसर तरीके से अपनी जो है कोशिशें और काविशें की, एक गोली चलाए बगैर इस जंग का फातेह पाकिस्तान है। पाकिस्तान इस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के बाद सबसे ज्यादा जो किसी की अगर दुनिया में इमेज बेहतर हुआ है, इमेज बिल्डिंग हुई है, वो पाकिस्तान की हुई है। और पाकिस्तान की लीडरशिप को आज दुनिया जो है वो इंतहाई अच्छे अल्फाज के साथ याद कर रही है, ब्रिंगर ऑफ पीस इन एंटायर वर्ल्ड के तौर पर देख रही है।
So, quoting from what the Western media is also citing sources and has revealed that Donald Trump issued threats constantly. Remember, whether it was bombardments or a bigger war, bigger escalation, and civilization will end tonight. He also simultaneously did want a ceasefire. Now, America, according to these reports, reviewed and approved Pakistan Prime Minister's ceasefire post. Pakistan Prime Minister Sharif then posted what clearly looked like a White House-approved message, as many have speculated online. Pakistan Prime Minister Sharif then urged the President Trump, for a ceasefire. The ceasefire was announced, but it was the edit history that many started to question about what was written and why, and was it just a copy-paste job, and from who? Now, the White House even denied allegations that they were in any way responsible for the copy-paste, and I'm quoting from what the American media is saying. So, there was a sigh of relief for all of us, even the countries that have not been involved in the war but are suffering consequences as the supply chain disrupted. It appeared there is a ceasefire, there is a pause, at least for 2 weeks. But in reality, a new flashpoint emerged. It looks like an endless crisis. Israel has continued with airstrikes at Lebanon, pressing on the mission to what they say is to dismantle Hezbollah, the proxy group supported by Iran. Major Israeli airstrikes have rocked central Beirut. Heavy damage has been reported in densely populated areas as well. Strikes have hit the Corniche al-Mazrah district, including locations near Abu Haider Tower. Massive explosions were seen and heard, and widespread destruction has been reported. The forces have also eliminated dozens of Hezbollah saboteurs and have discovered explosive devices and detonation that could have been to target the IDF forces. Israeli forces targeted multiple cities, including Beirut, the capital city. Now, we are told that about 89 lives, at least confirmed, have 89 people confirmed dead in this. 700 and more are injured. This is actually being seen as the deadliest Israeli offensive on Lebanon in this conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, though, making it clear that Lebanon was not part of the ceasefire agreement and that they will continue to pound the cities where they believe Hezbollah is. President Trump echoed this view of Benjamin Netanyahu, reportedly telling American media that Lebanon represents a separate skirmish. Everyone knows it falls outside the truce. But Iranian foreign minister has asked America to choose between either honoring the ceasefire or enabling a war via Israel. Multiple media reports indicate oil tankers are being prevented from passing through Hormuz as well, and calling it a breach of truce by Israel.
הלילה נכנסה לתוקפה הפסקת אש זמנית בת שבועיים בין ארצות הברית לבין איראן בתיאום מלא עם ישראל. לא, הם לא הפתיעו אותנו ברגע האחרון. עכשיו אני מבקש להדגיש, זה איננו סיומה של המערכה. זו תחנה בדרך להשגת כל היעדים שלנו.
Fundamentally, the Iranians have got to take the next step, or the president has a lot of options to go back to the war. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation. Well, I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. They're reopening the straits. We have a ceasefire. And frankly, if they break their end of the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences.
Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. This will continue to be discussed, I am sure, between the President and Prime Minister Netanyahu, the United States and Israel, and all of the parties involved. But at this point in time, they're not included in the ceasefire deal. With respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the President was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the President's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely. That is his expectation. It has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
So here's what has happened, that there is possibly scope of the reported ceasefire to continue, but a sharp contradiction has emerged between US Vice President J.D. Vance and Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. And I say that because Vance, the Vice President, has categorically stated that agreement does not include Lebanon, calling claims to the of a legitimate misunderstanding. He's saying that it has been, and insisted America never made that promise. His remarks are suggesting that Washington's position is limited and very clear and clearly defined. But remember what Pakistan Prime Minister Sharif had indicated earlier? In the post, he suggested ceasefire extends to Lebanon and American allies, even tagged J.D. Vance. So then it adds to the confusion and raising questions, what exactly was agreed to behind closed doors and what kind of a mediator Pakistan really has been if Iran thinks one and USA thinks completely opposite. Pakistan's ambassador to America on CNN said Lebanon was included in the ceasefire agreement. America denies it. The contradiction highlights a deeper concern over it, a lack of clarity around what the terms have been for the ceasefire, who are then the key stakeholders, and this uncertainty that is trouble not just for West Asia but specifically for Lebanon.
And there's a lot of bad faith negotiation and a lot of bad faith propaganda going on. I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states.
So this is very bizarre. We're talking about one full country. How was that either a part of the agreement or not at all? And why is there so much confusion over it? India Today's Rajdeep Sardesai spoke with retired British Army officer and author, retired General Sir Richard Sharif, on how the ceasefire is in fact fragile. Listen in.
How do you see it, this 2-week ceasefire within hours of threatening to eliminate Iran's civilization?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be with you. The good news is that the threatened genocide of Iran, encapsulated in those words that he was going to destroy Iranian civilization, has been averted for the moment. But the reality is that this ceasefire is fragile. An awful lot has to be negotiated. And the truth is, too, that this is a massive strategic setback for America and a humiliation for Trump. However much in Washington they will try and portray this as a victory, the very fact that Trump has accepted Iran's 10 points as a basis for negotiation, and indeed in his recent tweet suggested that America goes along with most of them, is a real reverse for America. And the truth is, too, that the world finds itself in a much worse place now than it was on February the 27th before this war began, because of the Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz. That Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz is going to put billions of dollars into the Iranian exchequer, cement the autocratic, theocratic regime of the Ayatollahs, and ultimately be really bad news for the Iranian people.
So is there a ceasefire really, or are we going to witness strikes yet again between two countries? I'm heading into a very short break. Stay tuned. News and updates continue on the other side. Thank
you. You are watching India Today.
Character, the taste of success.
Like I said before, we better own the sin. Like I said before, we better own the sin.
Who will shape the battle for power in 2026? 4 leaders, 4 distinct political styles, 1 high-stakes contest. In the latest issue, India Today tracks the battle of the chieftains as regional heavyweights face high-stakes contests across 4 key state elections of national importance. Read it in the latest issue of India Today, Making Sense of India, now available for speed delivery on Amazon and Blinkit. Subscribe now at subscriptions.intoday.in.
எல்லாரும் பேசுவாங்க நான் காட்டுவேன் ரராஜதீப் சர்தேசாய் இந்தியன் பொலிட்டிக்கல் லீக் மைண்ட் இட்
Hi, I'm Sana. Here's your weather update. Delhi maximum 30 and minimum 18 degrees. Mumbai maximum 29 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata maximum 34 and minimum 21 degrees. Bengaluru maximum 34 and minimum 25 degrees. Chennai maximum 33 and minimum 27 degrees. Hyderabad maximum 36 and minimum 24 degrees.
Bhaijan has a new love, and internet is absolutely here for it. Salman Khan may be one of Bollywood's biggest stars, but right now the spotlight belongs to his newest companion, his dog. The actor has once again melted hearts online with a fresh series of photographs featuring his adorable Chow Chow, whom he affectionately calls My Sukh. Salman first introduced My Sukh to the world in January, in a series of warm, candid photos from his Panvel farmhouse. Over the years, he has been pet parent to a string of beloved dogs, from Neapolitan Mastiffs to Saint Bernards, all bearing his signature naming style, from My Son and My Jaan to My Love. On the work front, Salman is set to kick off his next pan-Indian film with director Vamshi Paidapalli from April 18th. Additionally, he will also be seen in the upcoming war drama Matrubhumi, May War Rest in Peace, directed by Apurva Lakhia with Chitrangada Singh in a pivotal role.
Watching India Today.
Welcome back. In some other news now, several parts of the country witnessing high-stakes political battle that will shape regional future. But the national spotlight also on a potentially historic push for women's empowerment in public representation. Just a day after the cabinet cleared amendment to the Nari Shakti Vandan Act 2023 and announced a 3-day special parliament session from 16th April, Prime Minister Modi has issued a strong message. This is a video message on social media site. Prime Minister reiterating the vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047, stressing that Nari Shakti, women power, is central to India's development, adding 33% reservation must become a reality by 2029. Recalling all parties have backed the act, underlining the need for greater representation of women in public life. Sources say the cabinet has approved the amendments to be made to the Nari Shakti Act during 16-18 April special session. The plan targeting rollout by 2029. It will be a constitutional amendment also on the cards. It links a Lok Sabha seat hike to the 2011 census, potentially increasing the strength earlier from 543 to 816. Up to 273 seats, that means, will be reserved for women. But the opposition is mounting attacks already. Samajwadi Party MP Rajiv Rai is raising questions over the use of 2011 census to implement women's reservation now, asking why the quota cannot wait for updated census data to be done. The CWC will meet on 10th April to discuss the bill. The party's top leadership is set to deliberate on the quota bill ahead of the session.
माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों से एक बात करना चाहता हूं। भारत ने तय किया है कि 2047 में जब हमारी आजादी के 100 साल होंगे, तब तक हमने विकसित भारत बना के रहना है। लेकिन मेरे 2-2.5 दशक के सरकार के मुखिया के रूप में जो मेरे अनुभव है, उस अनुभव के आधार से मैं कह सकता हूं कि हमें विकसित भारत का लक्ष्य हासिल करना है, तो हमें हमारी मातृशक्ति को, हमारी नारी शक्ति को, उनके पूर्ण सामर्थ्य का राष्ट्र के विकास में जोड़ना ही होगा। हमने कुछ वर्ष पहले नारी शक्ति वंदन अधिनियम पारित किया था और सभी राजनीतिक दलों ने सहमति से किया था और सबकी इच्छा है कि 2029 में जब लोकसभा के चुनाव होंगे, तब हमारे देश की नारी शक्ति को जनप्रतिनिधि के रूप में लोकसभा में, विधानसभाओं में 33% स्थान मिलना ही चाहिए। पिछले कुछ दिनों से हम सभी राजनीतिक दलों से बातचीत कर रहे हैं। ज्यादातर दलों ने समर्थन भी दिया है। एक बहुत ही सकारात्मक माहौल दिख रहा है। इन्हीं विषयों को लेकर के मैंने आज अखबारों में एक लेख लिखा है। मेरे अपने विचार मैंने साझा किए हैं, लेकिन मैं आज आपसे आग्रह करता हूं, आप इस लेख को जरूर पढ़ें, औरों को भी पढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित करें और हम सभी राजनीतिक दलों को प्रेरित करें, उनका उत्साहवर्धन करें कि वो उमंग के साथ 16, 17, 18 संसद में इस विशेष काम के लिए जब हम मिल रहे हैं, तो इसको पारित करें और सब मिल करके इसका जश्न मनाएं। चलिए, मैं ज्यादा समय नहीं लेता हूं। लेख पढ़ने के बाद आपके कमेंट जरूर मुझे मिलेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
I'm heading into a short commercial break, but stay tuned because when I return, we have a special segment, excerpts of which we have run through this bulletin. It's Rajdeep Sardesai interacting with former British officer and author, retired General Sir Alexander Richard David Sharif, all about West Asia, the truce, if there will be one in the days to come. After a very short break, that and more.
You are watching India Today.
You have heard of bank robberies, diamonds, cash, maybe even a safe heist or two. But have you ever heard of a Kit Kat robbery? That's right, over 400,000 Kit Kat bars weighing 12 tons disappeared while the truck was on its way from a Nestle factory in Italy to Poland. Now that's enough chocolate to make every sweet tooth in Europe panic. And of course, the internet went into full meme mode. From jokes about Kit Kat's missing fingers to who stole my break. GIFs of chocolate bars running for cover, social media is having a field day. One thing's for sure, the world is more heartbroken over missing chocolate than the actual heist. With Simran Sarowa, Bureau Report, India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
You are watching India Today.
By General Sir Alexander Richard David Sheriff, former NATO commander, retired senior British Army officer. Appreciate General Sheriff, you joining me. Make sense of the events of the last 12 hours for us. This morning, Donald Trump had spoken about eliminating or destroying Iran's civilization, and then suddenly we hear of a ceasefire. How do you see it, this 2-week ceasefire within hours of threatening to eliminate Iran's civilization?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be with you. Well, the good news is that the threatened genocide of Iran, encapsulated in those words that he was going to destroy Iranian civilization, has been averted for the moment. But the reality is that this ceasefire is fragile. An awful lot has to be negotiated. And the truth is, too, that this is a massive strategic setback for America and a humiliation for Trump. However much in Washington they will try and portray this as a victory, the very fact that Trump has accepted Iran's 10 points as a basis for negotiation, and indeed in his recent tweet suggested that America goes along with most of them, is a real reverse for America. And the truth is, too, that the world finds itself in a much worse place now than it was on February the 27th before this war began, because of the Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz. That Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz is going to put billions of dollars into the Iranian exchequer, cement the autocratic, theocratic regime of the Ayatollahs, and ultimately be really bad news for the Iranian people.
So you're calling it a strategic setback for the United States, General Sharif, but to quote Donald Trump in his statement, he said the reason for this ceasefire is we have already met and exceeded all our military objectives. Do you not accept that the United States and Israel, by pounding Iran in the way that they did, have at least partly met their military objectives by seriously undermining Iran's infrastructure?
Well, let's be clear that Trump flip-flopped around with a range of objectives when this war began, ranging from unconditional surrender to regime change, to the writing down of ballistic missiles and the elimination of the nuclear threat. None of that has happened. Yes, the Americans and Israelis have launched an industrial-scale aerial assault on Iran. Yes, Iranian military capabilities have been dramatically written down, although it is clear that Iran still retains a capability with ballistic missiles and has thousands of cheap Shahed drones capable of launching at not only Gulf states, but also shipping in the Gulf. But the fact is that so long as Iran continues to hold the Strait of Hormuz, Trump and America is losing. That is the reality, the strategic reality, and that represents the largest, the greatest strategic disaster America has seen since Vietnam.
Now, you're making a very big, you're claiming this is the greatest strategic disaster that the United States has faced since Vietnam, and you're referring to the Strait of Hormuz. But the fact is, the Strait of Hormuz was open even before the war began, of course. You're now suggesting that by weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has a deadly weapon in its hand that it can use as and when, and virtually hold the global economy to hostage. Is that what you suggest is the strategic mistake, that the United States didn't recognize the key role that the Strait of Hormuz, this waterway, would play?
Precisely. You put it absolutely accurately. That before the February the 27th, the Strait of Hormuz was free to global navigation. Now it is under Iranian control. And one of the 10 points in that 10-point plan, which Trump has accepted as the basis for discussion and negotiation, says that Iran will retain sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, and we can expect to see swingeing tolls put on shipping going through those straits, which will make life very difficult for the Gulf states and indeed for shipping generally. So, and as you say, Iran absolutely realizes that it now has a weapon with which it can hold the global economy to ransom.
But that's, you keep referring, General, to the 10-point plan that Iran has put forward as the basis for negotiation. The Americans haven't abandoned, we are told, their 15-point plan, one of which is that Iran will have to give up its nuclear enrichment facilities. So it isn't, are you saying that this is entirely a win-win for Iran and a lose-lose for America and Israel? Because once the negotiations start, it's only then that we will know actually what's on the table from both sides.
Well, I think we can see what's on the table. Iran's 10-point plan, which Trump has accepted as the basis for negotiation. And as you say, one of those points in that 10-point plan is that Iran retains the right to develop nuclear capabilities as any other nation does. We will see what happens in the next 10 days. But I come back to my point that while Iran holds the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has Trump over a barrel.
But would you therefore say, as we look back, that this has been a war that could have been eminently avoided, that this was a war that was illegal under international law, that while negotiations were on in Geneva, you go and bomb Iran, you take out, assassinate their leaders? Is that what makes you believe that this war was a strategic mistake in the first place? Because there will be those who will say that Iran constitutes a danger to regional stability in West Asia, and particularly to the existence of Israel.
And your last statement is absolutely true. Iran has demonstrated that it is a regional threat. It has been a source of terrorism. It has absolutely been an existential threat to Israel, and it has exported instability and terrorism globally. But the truth is also that this war has been a masterclass in futility. It has achieved absolutely nothing of what Trump wanted to do, except destroy large amounts of the Iranian military. But those, in a sense, are tactical successes. Strategically, it has been a disaster for America.
So what was, according to you, what was the error? Where did the Americans go wrong? Did they go wrong right from day one in not having a clear strategy and an end game? Did they go along, in your view, with what Benjamin Netanyahu wanted? What went wrong when you come on the show tonight and say this is America's worst strategic disaster since Vietnam?
They went wrong because there was no clear strategy. There was no clear idea of how the war would end. And they failed to, the American leadership, Trump particularly, and Hezbollah, failed to recognize the importance of the Strait of Hormuz. And let's be clear, the American military have been wargaming the implications of an attack on Iran for 20 years or so. And they have absolutely wargamed to death the implications for the Strait of Hormuz. And they would have known very, very clearly what Iran was likely to do. But that was ignored by Trump in a state of hubris, the assumption that the all-powerful American military could bomb Iran into submission. Bombing as a campaign has been proven again and again in history not to work. And yet again, it has not worked.
So how do you see this now play out? Negotiations reportedly will start on Friday. Do you believe this fragile ceasefire will hold? Do you believe Trump's hubris will return to haunt him? That if there are commentators like yourself who say that this is the worst US disaster since Vietnam, that it will prick his ego somewhere and he will then look at ways in which he can once again resume hostilities. Do you see that happening, or do you believe this ceasefire will hold?
We can assume no rational thinking from President Trump. I think he's deranged. I think the tweet, the post last night about genocide, the post he put out on Easter Sunday about Iran, and also demonstrates a degree of derangement, confusion, irrationality, which is a global danger, frankly. So I don't know where these negotiations will go. I think the chances of them succeeding are very remote. But I come back to my point that while Iran holds the Strait of Hormuz, America is held hostage, and the global community, the global economic community, is also held to hostage.
It's very important that you're calling what Donald Trump said about eliminating a civilization as genocidal. You're also saying there are very remote chances of these negotiations succeeding. Are you therefore suggesting that a couple of weeks from now you fear the worst and the hostilities could resume and Iran could once again have its chokehold over the Strait of Hormuz and put the world again on the edge? Is that the fear?
I think it is absolutely possible. I think the only thing that might change that dynamic, and firstly, let's assume, given the very low-grade quality of negotiators like Witkoff and others the Americans produce, that the Iranians will run rings around them. But I think the only thing that can control Trump now, really, is the financial and the big tech bros in America, American public opinion. And I think when the full implications of the nature of this setback for America really are digested in American public opinion over the next couple of weeks, it is going to make it very difficult for America to return to the fight if they can't get what they want in these negotiations. But I come back to my point. Already, Trump has conceded that these 10 points are a basis for negotiation. So in a sense, he's given the initiative already to the Iranians.
Can I ask you, therefore, in conclusion, the biggest takeaway, would it be right to say that in an asymmetrical war, where one side had all the military might on its side, had this bombing campaign, does it show that a country with drones and cheap missiles, or cheap drones certainly, has been able to show that in asymmetrical warfare, you can't take victory for granted? And that's the biggest mistake that Donald Trump made. He thought Iran was Venezuela.
I think you're absolutely right. As Henry Kissinger wrote in a different context about Vietnam, the guerrilla wins if he does not lose. The conventional army loses if it does not win. In this case, it is Iran that is the guerrilla, the asymmetric force, and America the conventional army. And that is precisely what has happened.
A final word then. If you were advising Donald Trump, what would you tell Donald Trump, General Sharif? Now, what would you tell him, given that, as I said, the negotiations are set to begin in 2 days? What would you be advising the US president and, dare I say, the Israeli prime minister, who seems far more determined to go ahead with the war?
Resign, go into retirement, and hand over to a rational individual who can show the necessary intellectual capabilities required of leadership of the United States of America.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Those are very, very sharp words that you've used today. You've suggested that the American president has got this badly wrong, and may I repeat for the umpteenth time what you've said. You believe this is the greatest strategic, or the biggest strategic disaster that the United States has had since the war in Vietnam. General Sir Alexander Richard David Sharif, for joining me on the show and speaking so plainly, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You are watching India Today.
बहुत सी अनिश्चितता है, बहुत सी अनसर्टेनिटी है। ये मैं बिल्कुल भी आपको इसका जवाब नहीं दे पाऊंगा, क्योंकि ये हमें मालूम नहीं है कि मान लीजिए कि जैसे सीज फायर हो गया और वॉर खत्म हो गई और स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज मान लीजिए खुल भी गया, और जैसा कि अनाउंस किया गया है वो खुल जाएगा, हम उसके लिए जो है होपफुल हैं, पर कितना डैमेज हुआ है मालूम नहीं है, कितना समय लगेगा, कुछ फैसिलिटीज जो हैं बंद हुई हैं वहाँ पे गल्फ में, उनको वापस से चालू करने में कितना समय लगेगा ये भी हमें मालूम नहीं है। तो ये कह पाना आज के दिन में, लेकिन हमने सभी चीज़ों को जो हमारा जो अनुमान है उसके हिसाब से हमने जो आपको आंकड़े दिए हैं।
Are watching India Today.
Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching 4 p.m. Bulletin on India Today. I'm Pooja Shali. Let's begin first with the headlines coming in. It's the election season and international news as well over the continent. All right, so top news coming in from the bumper voting in Kerala until 3 p.m. 62% voter turnout in God's own country. Kerala heavyweights cast early morning vote. The northeastern state of Assam is not far behind either. Till 3 p.m. in Assam, nearly 76% voting. Himanta Biswa Sarma also seen offering prayers at the Kamakhya temple before he cast his vote. Absolutely brilliant. Puducherry witnessing a massive 72.40% voter turnout till 3 p.m. However, there were clashes also sporadically reported in parts of Puducherry. Focus will now return to Bengal. Will it also witness bumper voting in days to come? Prime Minister Modi is campaigning there, launching back-to-back attacks at Mamata Banerjee, from infiltrators to syndicate charge. PM Modi says no safety for women in Bengal under TMC, and then assures a Modi ki guarantee roar.
को जो शरणार्थी हैं उन्हें संविधान के तहत हर हक मिलेगा, लेकिन जो घुसपैठिए हैं उनको खदेड़ा जाएगा। हर करप्शन और बेटियों के साथ हुए हर अन्याय, हर रेप केस की फाइलें खुलेगी।
In international news, Donald Trump's big threat to Iran again. If Hormuz does not open, shooting will begin. He's warning of a bigger, better, never seen before shooting, claiming American ships, aircraft and troops already deployed. Is Iran already out of Islamabad talks? Iranian ambassador has deleted the social media post on the team reaching Pakistan tonight. Now also deleting a post on peace talks in Islamabad. What's unfolding? In an exclusive interview with India Today television, former NATO general raining fire on President Trump, calling the entire truce a massive humiliation for Trump administration and a strategic failure. No. I'm very happy to bring this big breaking news to you at this bulletin because it's the public that is speaking on the ground this election season. It's absolutely brilliant turnout being reported from at least 3 states. The northeastern state of Assam, 75.91%. At about 3 to 4 p.m., that is the number that is coming in. From Kerala, 62.71%. Puducherry, 72.40%. This is important. This could eventually turn out historic as well, how multiple states are reporting a high number. Remember, viewers, it is the day of the public. They get to decide if they want to retain their leaders or change them, how they decide to be governed in the next 5 years. Shibimol KG is joining me first from Kerala. Let's go across to that. Also, Ashutosh is joining us. Piyush is joining us from Guwahati. I correct myself here. So let's go across first to Shibimol. Shibimol, you've had a hectic campaign reporting, but it's happy to know, isn't it, that over 60% is a good number, I would say, because even in cities like Delhi and Mumbai, we have had like 40 to 50% by about 3 p.m. What are you hearing? Is this on the ground reflective, one, of the long queues? Who do you see more? Are women also in these long queues as voters?
It's mostly women voters that had come out in huge numbers. Unfortunately, the polling booth where I'm right now had a lot of women earlier, but right now it's a bit empty because 3 to 4 we're seeing a very low turnout compared to what we saw in the morning. 7 to 10, yes, we expected a huge turnout, but later on, it was very surprising that there were long queues outside polling booths at around in between 10 to 12, which is a peak heat, a peak heat time, and still there were many people who had come out to vote. So mostly we're seeing women voters coming out to vote. Also, the young voters, there are a lot of first-time voters who had come out in huge numbers to cast their vote. But mostly it was the women voters, I'm in Thiruvananthapuram, not just in Thiruvananthapuram, but across the state. When we look at the visuals, it's the women voters that had come out in large numbers to cast their vote. But we are understanding that it's at 62% by 3 p.m. So 3 more hours to go, which means it is likely to cross 70 very easily. It will cross 70, and in the evening time, once there's a relief from this heat, there will be more people turning up at the polling booth, and also the political parties here closely watching which district is recording the higher polling percentage. Because if we see the 14 districts, if we take a look at the 14 districts, there are certain districts that gives an edge to one particular party. So we've seen a lot of urban voters coming out. Very important point. Unlike the usual scenario, there's a lot of urban voters coming out in huge numbers. It's always the rural voters that come out in huge huge numbers, but that's not the case here this time.
I want to know that among the Malayalis who have come out an early morning through the day, they may be having possibly a nap time right now, but among them, are there young men and women from Kerala who have come out to exercise their franchise?
Oh, well, definitely. There were a lot of youngsters who came out to vote, and most of them voicing their opinions also very strongly, saying that some of them saying that our vote is for development, our vote is for a person. Some of us are voting for a party or an ideology that we strongly believe in. So various opinions also were heard from different youngsters who came out to vote. There were a lot of activities taken out by the Election Commission also to ensure that the young voters, because of course the older voters are politically more aware than the younger voters, is a perception that's out there. So if there is any sort of, if there's any sort of lacking, the Election Commission also ensured that a lot of campaigns were taken out to woo the Gen Z voters, because they are the ones who are going to decide. There are a lot of Gen Z voters who are voting this time in the election. So their votes, they have a say. Their votes are very, very important. So whoever is watching and is not yet cast their vote, please do come out and cast your vote, because everything counts. And interestingly, there are many constituencies in Kerala. This time we're witnessing a triangular contest with the CPIM, BJP and the Congress. In those constituencies, especially in urban areas, we're seeing a higher voter turnout, which shows that there is a very tight contest taking place with each party ensuring that all their vote reaches the polling booth on time itself.
From the southern state, I want to now go to the northeast. Assam, absolutely fantastic, 75.91% by the time the clock's touching 4 p.m. Piyush is there. Piyush, what kind of an atmosphere, sentiment do you see on the ground? If it's 75 right now, I believe by the time it wraps up, it might as well cross 85%.
Well, no doubt about it. Pooja, when we reached today in the morning at the polling booth, we saw a long queue at 6 a.m. itself. And the main reason here is that in Northeast, sun rises early. At 4 a.m. you start seeing a faint of sunlight, and this is a normal day in Assam where sun rises early, and because of that the usual work of the day also starts early, and that's why people start gathering there at polling booth in large number, and that's what we witnessed at 6 a.m. when we reached there at the polling booth. And so far more than 75% have cast their vote, and like you rightly mentioned that yes, it is most likely to cross the percentage of 85%. Last time in assembly elections around 83% voting had taken place. At the time we had seen how a support was extended to BJP, but it was not able to form government on its own. It took help of NDA allies, but this time BJP is very confident, and when we are talking to few BJP leaders on this huge turnout, many of them are saying that people
what are people telling you in Assam? What do you think are the issues? Because this is where the border issue, the infiltration, Bangladeshi, all of these were important and key words. Is that a bigger focus, do you think, for voters on the ground? Is it development, local issues that are of prime importance? What are you picking up as a sentiment on the ground?
Well, the biggest sentiment is about the death of Zubeen Garg, and that is resonating among the Gen Z. And as far as people are, who are Gen X, they are of the view that the government has worked in the last few years. Women especially are really happy about the kind of money transfers those have taken place in their account. And they are, they are also demanding that more work needs to be done in outer region of Assam. Yes, infiltration is a big issue, and people are really agitated with the fact that a lot of infiltration has happened. But at the same time, they are also not happy that the kind of claims those BJP government has made that yes, it is going to throw them out, all infiltrators will be thrown out. That has not been done. So they are hopeful that if BJP again forms the government, actions will be taken against infiltrator. And this is a sentiment which is not there only among the Hindu community, but also in Assamese Muslim community. They are also frustrated and they are not happy with the infiltration of Bangladeshi Muslims.
That's important
here in
because
Assam.
Eventually everyone wants safety and security. Piyush and Shibimol, thank you for getting these updates, and through the day we'll keep coming back to you. But I have to say something here. I hope Delhi and Mumbai and its public are watching this right now. So much focus, even in our news bulletins, are on Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru. And look at how these cities, otherwise, from Kerala, from Assam, Puducherry, 72%, 75%, over 60% have already come out to cast their vote. That's how you decide the leader, and then you get a right to complain as well. Let me tell you first about Assam. So Himanta Biswa Sarma is already promising that there's going to be a bumper voting. Now he said about 75%. It's almost touched that point right now as we bring you these updates coming in from 4 p.m. But what does it? How does it look like in the next few hours? It looks like that for sure that people are coming out, and in those long queues are the decision makers of the country. So let's go one by one from the northeastern state of Assam. Very important, whether it's strategically, location-wise, logistics, or the manner in which it reflects of how BJP is making inroads in the northeastern states. Himanta Biswa Sarma has already promised that BJP is returning to the state and there is going to be a bumper voting. He said it's going to be about 75% by the end of the day. It's almost touched that number already at about 4 p.m. Now, what is it looking like on the ground? As the Chief Minister and as a BJP candidate, of course, from Jalukbari, Himanta Biswa Sarma has hailed the bumper voting. He also expressed confidence in BJP's victory, but it is this tug of war that's happening now about what the BJP claims is a one-sided contest. But Assam Congress Chief Gaurav Gogoi, who is contesting from Jorhat, also cast his vote and urged people to exercise their franchise. Gaurav Gogoi, of course, comes with the political family influence, considering his father was a chief minister multiple times. Gogoi expressed confidence in the grand old party returning to power in Assam, saying people do want change, they want a strong government. So in total for Assam, ladies and gentlemen, 126 constituencies are up for voting in Assam. Results will be announced on the 4th of May. Let's listen in to the top candidates.
पहला बात, वेदर बहुत अच्छा है असम में और लोग बहुत ज़्यादा वोटिंग कर रहा है. मेरा लगता है कि शाम तक होते होते वी शुड बी समवेयर 75 to 80% वोटिंग. मेरा लगता है कि 80 तक हम लोग जाएंगे. असम का विकास के लिए वोट होना चाहिए, असम का डेवलपमेंट के लिए वोट होना चाहिए. सब वोट करें स्टेट का विकास के लिए.
विकास पूरे प्रदेश में घूमे, क्या ऐसे मुद्दे आपको लगता है कि लोग आके इस बार बीजेपी को दोबारा?
मेरा लगता है कि इस बार चुनाव थोड़ा सा वन साइडेड है और विकास के लिए वोट दे रहे हैं लोग.
तो आप देख सकते हैं कैसे यहाँ पर जो है. सर, एक सवाल मैं लूँ, अगर जो मियाँ का मुद्दा था उसको लेकर आप लोगों के बीच
आज चुनाव का दिन, हमें कुछ भी नहीं बोलना चाहिए. आज इलेक्शन कमीशन का दिन है.
लेकिन सर,
मेरा लगता है कि चुनाव आयोग का नियम पालन करना जरूरी है. हमारा बात हम बोल दिया हूँ, चुनाव का दिन चुनाव आयोग का ही चले, हमारा ना चले.
एक आखिरी प्रश्न, चुनाव से पहले, ठीक पहले हमने देखा कैसे कुछ आरोप आप पर और आपके परिवार वालों पर लगे, उन पर आप
आज देखिए, अभी जब वोट दान होगा जनता सब साफ कर देगा.
असम की जनता इसको
कोई आरोप है ही नहीं है. यह आरोप लगाने से आरोप होता है. डुप्लीकेट कागज में आरोप नहीं बनता, इसमें सिटिंग होते हैं.
एक विरासत भी है, एक्सपेक्टेशंस का भी बोझ है. किस तरीके से आपको लगता है कि आज क्या होने वाला है?
नहीं, लोगों से जो आशीर्वाद मिला है और लोगों के बीच में जो उत्साह देखा है, जो उमंग हमने देखा है, तो मुझे लगता है कि असम के लोग असम की भविष्य की जो कमान है अपने हाथों में ले रही है और वापस असम में खुशहाली की असम और एकजुटता की असम और एक नए असम की कल्पना में लोग आए हैं. काफ़ी भीड़ हमने देखा है विभिन्न समयों में और मुझे पूरी आशा है कि आने वाले 4 तारीख को हमको एक सशक्त, सबल, सरल और एक सभ्य असम हमको दिखाई देगा.
गौरव, हम देख रहे हैं कि तस्वीर है आपके फादर की. यहाँ पे कई लोग उनके बारे में बात करते हैं कि जब वो वार्ड कमिश्नर थे, यहाँ पे घूमते थे, नगर पालिका से उन्होंने अपनी शुरुआत की, तो जोरहट में भी वो चुनाव लड़े, लेकिन आपके लिए काफी कड़ा मुकाबला था 24 में. आपको लगता है एक बड़ा मजबूत कैंडिडेट आपके सामने खड़ा है बीजेपी का, 4-5 बारी वो विधायक रह चुके हैं यहाँ से, और हेमंत खुद यहाँ पे कैंप कर रहे हैं।
नहीं, देखिए, हमारे हर राजनीतिक जो हमारे विरोधी है उन सबका हम सम्मान करते हैं, और निश्चय ही जोरहाट में जो वर्तमान में और पूर्व सरकार में जो विधायक थे वो विधानसभा में अध्यक्ष भी रह चुके हैं और कई बार यहाँ से एमएलए हैं, और मुझे लगता है कि लोग अपना मन उन्होंने बना लिया है कि किस तरीके से वो आने वाले समय में आगे बढ़ेंगे। और यहाँ कर लोगों ने जो जिस प्रकार से हमें आशीर्वाद दिया है, मार्गदर्शन दिया है, जिस प्रकार से हमको आगे बढ़ने का प्रोत्साहन दिया है, तो मैं लोगों के प्रति काफी कृतज्ञ हूँ।
देखिए, सारे लोग ये जानना चाहते हैं, गौरव गोगोई सांसद हैं, अब विधायकी का चुनाव लड़ रहे हैं, तो क्या ये बरसाती मेढक वाला मामला है, जीत गए तो रहेंगे या सरकार बनी तो रहेंगे वरना दिल्ली वापस चले जाएंगे? गौरव गोगोई क्या करेंगे जोरहाट के उस जनता के साथ जिन्होंने उनको चुन के विधायक बनाया? क्या आपकी विधायकी रहेगी या बाइपोल्स होंगे?
देखिए, सबसे पहले ये निर्वाचन को हमें पार करना है। आज मतदान का दिन है। आज हम सबको यहाँ पे एक असम के बारे में सोचना है। आज समय नहीं कि एक व्यक्ति विशेष के बारे में सोचे या व्यक्ति विशेष के भविष्य के बारे में सोचे।
Ma'am, umpteen number of elections and you've come and cast your vote. We were talking about the voter turnout. Will you appeal to the voters? And it's a big day for your son today. From father to son, the legacy is passed on.
Yeah, he's carrying his legacy. I think he will take it more forward. And I hope so the people will, Assam and people of Jorhat especially, I'll thankful to them what they have done for him in the Lok Sabha elections. I think the same results will come this time also.
I have just cast my vote, and I'm just because I couldn't transfer my voting right when I decided to file my nomination as a Bharatiya Janata Party candidate from Dispur. I tried last minute, but then since it didn't get transferred, so I came here to cast my vote first thing in the morning. So I've cast my vote now, so I'm heading back to Dispur.
So let me now take you to South, because that's Kerala, the state that's currently going through the election process of voting. It's a three-way battle here. We're talking about the left wanting to hold on its bastion. The Congress is fighting for its survival, and the Bharatiya Janata Party also trying best to make inroads. It does make a three-way contest, but the best part right now is there has been a bumper voting. There are people from across Kerala who've been in long queues since early morning, and that's reflective of the kind of vigor and passion that people of Kerala have decided to go for. They want to decide and elect their leader. We're in fact told over 60% easily that the voting has touched. Let's get you the top numbers right now, but also the key candidates and the top leaders. Among the key faces, let's go by that first, who voted up: Pinarayi Vijayan, the Chief Minister incumbent; V. Muralidharan from Karakutam; V.D. Satisan and Rajiv Chandrasekhar from Nimom. All eyes are on this tightly fought battle. So these are some of the key contests. The core issue this time is that there is a rising anti-incumbency factor, but there is a communal polarization also that has been seen. There's a big debate definitely over development and economy of the state of Kerala. Actor and filmmaker Mohan Lal was also seen casting vote early this morning, and of course the fanfare that was seen on the ground as well. These are the political candidates on your screen. We'll put now actor and filmmaker Mohan Lal as well. There was also Kerala Minister and LDF candidate from Nemom, V. Shivan Kutti.
ഈ തെരഞ്ഞെടുപ്പ് കേരളത്തിലെ ഭാവി നിർണ്ണയിക്കുന്ന അതിപ്രധാനമായ തെരഞ്ഞെടുപ്പാണ്. കാരണം നമ്മൾ ഒരു വികസിത കേരളത്തിലേക്ക് നല്ല ചുവട് വെച്ച് നിർത്തുകയും ഒരുപാട് നേട്ടങ്ങൾ എല്ലാ മേഖലകളിലും കൈവരിക്കാൻ നമുക്ക് കഴിവിത്തരും. അത് തുടരണം.
We are very confident that we are coming more than 100 seats in this assembly election and form the government in Kerala. People are tired with this government, so the people of Kerala is saying goodbye to Pinarayi Vijayan, and we are going to form a very efficient government for the people of Kerala.
We are going to sweep the election. We will cross 100 more seats in these elections. The atmosphere in the state is like that. People are very much for a change. They are fed up with this Pinarayi Vijayan as the Chief Minister for the last 10 years. The question before the people in this election is whether this anti-people, arrogant Chief Minister has to continue 5 more years. They are telling not at all. This is the answer we are hearing from everywhere.
No, we are expecting the turnout to be high. It is already high by this morning's time. That is, I came here at 11:30. It was already quite high in many districts. And I would say that if you're going to look at the turnout on the whole, by the end of the day, it may even surpass previous levels ever established, record levels. And that's because the people of Kerala want to vote for a change. They don't want to leave it to the normal political workers and activists to determine their future. Ordinary people are coming out to vote. That's why the turnout is high.
BJP saying that they are decisive power in the Kerala right now. What's your thoughts on that?
One sentence. People of Kerala don't like BJP. Their ideology.
BJP saying that they are decisive power in the Kerala right now. What's your thoughts on that?
One sentence. People of Kerala don't like BJP. Their ideology.
So how do you feel? So you have just voted early in the morning. What's the mood like in your
I
camp?
used to vote in the first line every election.
Okay.
I used to vote first that at 7 o'clock. Okay. Myself and my family used to vote.
Okay.
And my request to all the voters in Kerala, they have to go for voting.
Okay.
They have to participate this democratic process. It is very important. They can vote for anybody. That is there in this. Politically, they are all aware. Kerala people are very much aware of the political things.
And what's the mood like in your camp and especially UDF at this point of time, sir?
I have traveled across the state 4 times within last 3 months. Now I have a feeling that there is a huge trend in favor of UDF in Kerala. And there is a large level anti-incumbency against the government.
23 days of fierce campaign. It's the D-Day. What are the expectations like?
No, with my expectation today is the expectation that I had the beginning of the campaign, that this is an extremely important election that will determine the direction and the future of our state, our children, our people. For too many decades, the BJP has been kept out of this politics, and the politics has been dominated by the CPM and the Congress, and the people are suffering as a consequence of this very lazy politics of the CPM and the Congress. The corruption, the malgovernance, the incompetence, all of that, people are the victims of that. And we have placed forth in front of the people a very, very positive agenda of Viksit Kerala. Ellarkum Mendi, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, a vision of a strong, vibrant, debt-free Viksit Kerala. And that agenda has been taken over and taken ownership of by the people. So people want their politicians to deliver for them. People want political parties in Kerala to deliver for them and not just indulge in rhetoric and mudslinging and negative politics and abuse against each other, as we are seeing every day between the Congress and the CPM. So I am extremely confident that because the people have assumed the ownership of this enough and change, that BJP India will get a very strong mandate in these elections.
Now, with Kerala elections also comes in the big celebrity star power thanks to the Malayalam film industry. So I want to take you through all the big faces, the celebrities also who were standing in those queues to ensure they practice their chants and exercise their vote as well. Let's begin. First, on top, of course, is... these are visuals coming in from Kochi. This is Ernakulam district. Actor Mammootty arriving to cast his vote at the Christ King Convent Girls LP School, accompanied by his son, actor Dulquer Salman. All right, Home Assembly constituency, Thiruvananthapuram as well. Actor Mohanlal arriving to cast his vote. During the Kerala Legislative Assembly elections 2026. I correct myself there. So while earlier there was Mohanlal arriving to cast his vote in Nemom Assembly constituency, Thiruvananthapuram, now these are visuals from Kochi, actor Mammootty with his son, actor Dulquer Salman. Prithviraj Sukumaran arriving to cast his vote. He was seen greeting officials as well before he exercised his franchisee. Polling continues across the state with a steady turnout. This is Alapura, showing actor Fahad Fazil casting his vote for the Kerala Legislative Assembly elections 2026. Again in Ernakulam, Malayalam actor Dileep was seen casting his vote. This is the Alua Cultural Centre. Polling is underway and it's steadily increasing. That's the best part about how public is queuing up in large numbers to exercise their vote. Actor Tovino Thomas in Thrissur casting his vote. Celebrities and other public figures were also turning out large booths, drawing attention to the statewide voter turnout. Again in Alapura, actor Kunshako Boban was seen casting his vote, setting an example that voter engagement is not just about general public. Celebrities leading the case here. Constituencies, 90 lakh voters, that's Puducherry. Many would think that Puducherry isn't very significant when it comes to political battle, but it definitely is. There was a reason that Prime Minister Modi himself decided to campaign there just before the campaigning got over for this election season. And Puducherry, in fact, is reporting high number when it comes to the voters. Over 70%, in fact, 72% recorded till about 3 p.m. Now, this is heartening because this reflects how people have queued up in large numbers to ensure that there is strong voting. 294 candidates for Puducherry. Also, the big question here will be, can the NDA, led by Prime Minister Modi as, of course, the star factor, but importantly, incumbent Chief Minister N. Rangaswamy, can they hold on to power together as an alliance? Or will it be the Congress Dravida Munnetra Karagam alliance? Rahul Gandhi and M.K. Stalin at the helm reclaim for the union territory as well. So if Tamil Nadu and Puducherry go to the same party or the outfits, that would be a huge power as well. So that's why Puducherry and Tamil Nadu together can play a crucial role. But there's a twist here to the contest. Remember that actor turned politician Vijay making his electoral debut and looking to disrupt traditional vote banks. It could be a three-way fight and alliances could shift as well. It is the Indian political league for sure. So that's what we are looking at as a large number of Congress and BJP members gathered in front of the polling booth in Tirukkanur. A scuffle sadly was reported in Puducherry. That's V. Narayanasamy on your screen, former Puducherry Chief Minister as well. But the only place where we have sporadic clashes being reported this morning was Puducherry, sadly. And this was a scuffle between the two sides. Congress, BJP and the police had to resort to lathi charge. Tense situation prevailed. Now, what was the reason here? Alleged distribution of gift coupons worth 15,000 rupees for voters. The allegation was against NR Congress supporters. DMK supporters and NR Congress supporters therefore clashed over the issue, with police having to intervene to diffuse the situations.
So, how do you see this election shaping up for the people of Puducherry?
The people of Puducherry, I've been seeing that this election will be a game changer. The reason is the people of Puducherry see that they compared the previous our government and the present NR-BJP government. The present NR-BJP government totally failed. In fact, there is corruption, unemployment, there is no safety for women, then the drug abuse, and the law and order is in a very bad shape, and every department, the workers, employees are agitating against this government. Therefore, this government has no clarity on its promises. They gave 100% assurance to the people. In that, even 10% has not been fulfilled. And the restaurants of about 400 were opened throughout the Puducherry. And the people are fearing to go out, especially ladies are fearing to go out on the street. Therefore, this government has totally failed in all the sectors. Education is in a very bad shape. Health sector is not improving. And basic amenities have not been provided. Portable drinking water has not been given to the people. And I can say 100 things. Therefore, The people of Puducherry are fed up with this government. They want a change. They want India Alliance to come to power.
It definitely makes me extremely happy to know that there is this bumper voting, large number of people are queuing up, because that is where truly public power is reflected. Stay on with me. I'm wrapping up this bulletin, but when we return, we get your exclusive interview with Shashi Tharoor, the Thiruvananthapuram Member of Parliament from the Congress, and what does he have to say about what Kerala elections are truly about. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Signing off.
Character, the taste of success.
Who will shape the battle for power in 2026? 4 leaders, 4 distinct political styles, 1 high-stakes contest. In the latest issue, India Today tracks the battle of the chieftains as regional heavyweights face high-stakes contests across 4 key state elections of national importance. Read it in the latest issue of India Today. Making Sense of India. Now available for speed delivery on Amazon and Blinkit. Subscribe now at subscriptions.intoday.in.
The game is on. The India Today Prime Team is out in the stadium. All padded up. The ultimate newsman opens the innings. Priti Chaudhary reading the pole pitch. Maria Shakil firing bouncers at Netas. Akshita Nandagopal with 360-degree field coverage. From power plays to death overs, India Today is hitting it out of the park. Indian political league in top gear all through this election season.
எல்லாரும் பேசுவாங்க நான் காட்டுவேன் ரராஜதீப் சர்தேஷா
First and foremost, elevated crude oil prices could increase imported inflation and widen the current account deficit. Second, disruptions in energy markets, fertilizers, and other commodities may adversely impact industry, agriculture, and services, reducing domestic output. Third, heightened uncertainty, increased risk aversion, and safe haven demand could impact domestic liquidity conditions, economic activity, consumption, and investment. Fourth, weaker global growth prospects may dampen external demand and reduce remittance flows. Finally, adverse spillovers from global financial markets could tighten domestic financial conditions and raise the cost of borrowing. some of which we have already witnessed.
West Asia is on edge. The Iran war has pushed the region to a breaking point. Oil, security, global stability, all hanging in the balance. But here's the twist. The diplomatic channel that may be shaping a ceasefire isn't coming from global power centers, but from Islamabad. In his latest editorial, Shashi Tharoor argues that India must stand for peace, whoever the broker may be. But does that realism come at a strategic cost? Is India choosing principle or accepting marginalization? Joining me now is senior parliamentarian, former diplomat, and someone who has consistently articulated India's global voice, Dr. Shashi Tharoor himself. Dr. Tharoor, really appreciate your time. You argue, sir, that India must support peace, whoever the broker may be. But when that broker is Pakistan in the middle of the Iran war, are you asking India to set aside decades of strategic distrust?
Yeah, well, the fact is that the disgust and the distrust are both absolutely justified. But in this particular context, I think a more statesman-like attitude is called for. And there's no doubt about that, because the fact is this war has actually hurt us very badly, hurt us in the kitchen, hurt us at the petrol station, hurt us in our factories in many cases. And it is something which is not in the interests of the global South, whose voice we have rightly, I think, tried to represent on the world stage. And so we should also understand that Pakistan may not even be the real initiator of this peace. There is every reason to imagine that Pakistan is kind of a diplomatic fig leaf, because the Prime Minister of Pakistan issued a tweet in which he clearly was cutting and pasting a draft sent from Washington using the same language that President Trump's communications was using. But even then, it doesn't matter, because for us, we have a sense of regional responsibility. We have strategic restraint, and we are the voice of the interests of the global South, which is hurting from the continuation of this war. In other words, for us, peace is in our national interest. And that's why I think we should welcome, as the government has welcomed the peace and has welcomed it without any particular reference to Pakistan, but has welcomed the fact that a peace is taking place and a negotiation is going to be happening in Islamabad from tomorrow. That's also part of this process. I think we should act with the kind of dignity that our civilization, I think, calls for.
Dr. Tharoor, you describe in your editorial that Islamabad channel as effective. Is this also an admission that India is not central to shaping outcomes in this conflict? Is India then reacting to events rather than driving them?
No, currently on the Iran war, we have kept open lines of communication with all parties. That is, with Iran, with the US, and with the affected countries in the Gulf. And that's the right thing to do. As far as India is concerned, after all, we have a certain priority that we must give to regional stability and to our own interests. And I think by championing peace in general, without condemning either belligerent, something which I have supported publicly in the past, India has reinforced its identity as a responsible global power which values the stability of the international order. And that is the role that I think India stands for. Whether Pakistan has certain advantages in the present context, including perhaps a willingness to provide that diplomatic fig leaf to allow both the US and Iran to de-escalate without seeming to back down directly to one another, if Pakistan can play that role in a way that others can't, why should we resent that? Peace is in our interest, as I said. And I would argue that really we can take a very relaxed view relaxed may be the wrong word, but a very calm and mature view about all that. Pakistan has developed certain special links with the Oval Office, and Pakistan itself is a neighbor of Iran's and has a 40 million Shia population and a 900-kilometer shared border. All of these gives Pakistan certain assets in this particular context that is special and unique to Pakistan. I don't think we need to see that in any way in relation to us. Life is not always a zero-sum game. It's not as if what they're doing on Iran is the equivalent of their doing a terrorist attack on Pahalgam. There they have a zero-sum calculation. When it comes to the Iran war, peace is in our interest too.
Okay, you have said that de-escalation serves India's energy and economic interests. But should India be content as a beneficiary rather than a participant shaping the outcome?
Well, I mean, I don't think we're going to invite ourselves to somebody else's negotiations, so we're not a participant. But what we should do is we should watch it very carefully, and we should, of course, be conscious that that while we want it to succeed, the effort could also fail. I mean, already we've had the setback in Lebanon, where the Israelis say the peace doesn't cover Lebanon, and the Pakistanis claim it does, and all over Iran says they thought it would cover Lebanon too. So all of this is already a potential train wreck in the negotiation. And on top of that, there could be Iranian intransigence, there could be American politics coming in the way, the Israelis who might be furious, and you never know if the peace plan is going to work. We should watch it. I'm not saying that we should in any way seek to participate, but we should watch it. And if it fails, then because that's a tragedy and a setback for the whole region and for the global South as a whole, we should analyze it and see if it leaves room for any different kind of effort on our part. We also have a unique relationship with the US. We also have historical ties with Iran, not the same as Pakistan, but we have them too. So if we are able to offer the approach of let's try something else, we should be prepared to do so. But I'm not suggesting we should leap in where angels fear to tread. I think we should be watching it, deciding for ourselves whether there is anything useful we can do, because we are conscious of the value of our strategic autonomy, and we are conscious that we are a nation that has historically had a capacity to play the bridge builder. So all of these are reasons why we should watch this carefully and without any criticism or disparagement, knowing very well that peace is in our interest.
Before I speak about the global South, because you have made a compelling argument for that, let me ask you about another point that you have made in your editorial. You say that the zero-sum mindset, you have cautioned against a zero-sum mindset, Dr. Tharoor. But given China's backing of Pakistan in this process, does supporting the Islamabad channel indirectly validate a China-Pakistan strategic axis in West Asian diplomacy?
Now, I didn't say we should necessarily support it. I said we should watch it carefully and we should not disparage it, because any means of achieving peace should not be opposed by India. Peace is essential. But for us to acknowledge the reality that Pakistan has the so-called all-weather alliance with China, don't forget that the foreign minister of Pakistan, after receiving the foreign ministers of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey in Islamabad, then flew to Beijing to brief the Chinese. So there is very clearly an existing alliance and partnership there. That's not news. That's not a setback for us. We've already known about it for years.
Okay, let's talk about the global South focus that you have put firmly in your article. You have argued that India must speak for the global South without condemning either side. In a conflict involving active military escalation, can such calibrated neutrality still be seen as principled leadership, or does it then risk appearing opportunistic?
No, I mean, I'm certainly of the view that our silence has given us a certain amount of credibility, because we haven't condemned either belligerent. The Prime Minister has stayed in touch with the Americans, with the Iranians, and with the Gulf countries that are all affected. And that makes that sensible, because we are a voice for the stability of the international order. But we can't just remain silent, for example, if this peace effort breaks down. And even if the peace effort succeeds, I'm not keen on India now just coming across as a passive observer of all of these developments. I think we really now need to say that as a voice of the global South, we want to figure out what is happening to the world order, because we are a crucial stakeholder in building the world order as a leader of the global South. And the truth is that in this particular situation, passivity, we should watch passively while the negotiation goes on. But next, if it succeeds, we should try and build on that peace to replace the kind of vacuum that is emerging in the global order, because the old structures of global security have proved to be either too feeble or too porous to prevent catastrophe in Iran and in the Gulf. We can't just sit around, watching the fires in our backyard or in the neighborhood. We're not just an affected country. We are a major stakeholder in the survival of the global commons. This is something which calls for a credible, principled voice that India can articulate to help build the architecture of a new emerging order. This is if the peace succeeds, we should be an active voice in what happens thereafter. If the peace attempt fails, then we should say, look, this affects all of us. This affects us. It affects our friends in the global south. We want to seize any other alternative feasible. And we would like to now, in the interests of those countries that want peace, we would like to talk to you all to see what can be done. So that, I think, is the right time. Not now. Don't leap into something which you've got nothing to do with. Sit back. Watch how the Pakistanis are doing it. If they succeed, and it's not even, they may only be providing a venue. The talking may really be being done by the Americans and the Iranis. We don't know. We'll find out from tomorrow onwards. Okay. But if they pull it off, we should certainly applaud. We should celebrate because we want peace. If they don't pull it off, we have to be active in what follows next.
Dr. Tharoor, there is a section which believes that India perhaps has underutilized its own civilizational and energy ties with Iran in recent years due to external pressures. What's your view?
No, there are these pressures. I mean, there's no question, for example, that sanctions on Iran meant that a country which was supplying us a lot of oil, and that too on a rupee real basis, up to 2017 has now become a zero supplier of oil to India until this very war when the Americans lifted the sanctions. Because what happens with these sanctions, the American sanctions, they're not UN sanctions, they're not authorized under international law, but they are very effective commercially. Because any company that defies American sanctions and buys Russian oil or Iranian oil, and at one time until January this year, Venezuelan oil, any Indian company that buys that is then sanctioned for all trade with the American and European markets. And that's something that no Indian company can afford. So de facto, it's a commercial weapon, not a legal weapon.
Okay, so when we are looking at this kind of positioning in statecraft, what institutional legitimacy do these institutions have right now? Dr. Tharoor, you yourself have served at the United Nations. Do these institutions really mean anything in these times?
Well, the UN has an enormous value in other areas, but in peace and security, it has certainly not done well in recent years. It failed to prevent the war in Ukraine. And once the war broke out, of course, the composition of the Security Council with one permanent member actually directly involved in the war meant the UN could do nothing. But the Secretary General, I think, missed out on an opportunity to intervene before the war started, when the Americans and the British were warning that a war was about to happen, that the Russians are amassing troops. He should have been out there talking to Moscow, talking to Kyiv, and that, I think, was a missed opportunity. Then when this war broke out, of course, no one got a chance to intervene. But the UN, again, is facing a situation where one of the belligerents is a permanent member of the Security Council. And so, again, the UN has been, quite frankly, completely absent from the fray of trying to bring about peace in Iran. Even the Islamabad dialogue, to the best of my knowledge, does not have any UN godfatherhood. In the old days, at least the UN might have been the fig leaf. Now it seems Pakistan is the fig leaf that the two countries have resorted to. So in these circumstances, I agree with you. I share your worry that at least in the realm of international peace and security, that unfortunately we are not really looking at a very credible UN role. But the UN has its usefulness as a forum to bring all countries in the world together, and it's very useful on social, economic, humanitarian, and development issues. So no one wants to wish the UN away. But the Security Council, as the guarantor of international peace, has faltered in the two big wars that the world has confronted in the last 3-4 years.
You have made a distinction, Dr. Tharoor, during the course of this interview of what Pakistan does as a state which harbors terrorism to its role as a mediator. But if peace comes through Pakistan's mediation, does that give Islamabad renewed global legitimacy? And does that come then at India's cost, sir?
It may well do. It may well do give them a more credibility, but maybe we can even seize that to our advantage. Maybe we can try and say through their newfound friends in Washington that if they are now sort of trying to come across as these responsible global citizens, perhaps they can start arresting some of their own terrorists. Perhaps they can close down some of their terrorist bases. Perhaps they can dismantle the infrastructure of terror in order to live up to this new image. I mean, I don't know. And let's try and make lemons, as the American expression goes, try and make lemonade out of whatever lemons we get. Let's not see everything as a zero-sum defeat. If they do well, we are immediately bad. No, let's see how we can convert that to our advantage.
Just a couple of more questions here, Dr. Tharoor. I know you're in the middle of elections. Elections are happening and you've just cast your vote. Your reference to Donald Trump and Asim Munir's personal diplomacy bypassing formal institutions certainly suggests a shift in global statecraft. How should India then recalibrate its diplomatic engagement in an era increasingly driven by leader-level equations rather than institutional processes?
Well, as you know, our foreign secretary is in Washington even as we speak, and I think that he's only coming back tomorrow. So I think there is a major review taking place of the Indian relationship with the US, and no doubt he'll come back with some good ideas as to how to take it forward. Look, I mean, I'm very conscious that I'm in the opposition. I'm giving you personal views, and the government has access to a whole lot of inside stuff that you and I don't know. So I would say that while they are in charge of these things, they will certainly have to give a lot of thought to the kind of question you asked me. I think that undoubtedly we need to review the basis of that relationship, many other relationships, who we appoint as ambassadors, how we deal with them. We are not the kind of states which has a field marshal in charge or a failed marshal in charge, as we like to say. And so we're not going to have that kind of Asim Munir kind of channel to Washington. But there may be other ways in which we can work. Don't forget that the Indian and US governments, the previous Trump administration had a very good relationship with our government. Maybe there could be ways to actually, shall we say, restore that. I just refuse to take my cues from how well or badly Pakistan is doing. Because to my mind, they are another country. We are another country. We have our own logic and our own circumstances and our own priorities.
That brings me to my last question. If the mediation fails, you have proposed in this piece that India should be ready to step in. What concrete diplomatic tools or channels does India currently possess to credibly position itself as an alternative mediator between the US and Iran?
No, I'm not suggesting we should do that. I'm suggesting we should analyze what led to the failure. If those are factors that are unique, for example, to the Pakistani involvement, perhaps we might be able to try or propose trying a different approach. I'm not even suggesting we should immediately come to that conclusion. It would all depend on what happens, whether it fails, and our analysis of why it failed. And that's why I hope that the Indian diplomatic establishment is studying the process in Islamabad very carefully, that we have our lines of communication open to all the sources we need, namely the US, the Gulf countries, and Iran, and that if things work out, we understand what succeeded and why it succeeded, and that if it fails, we understand what went wrong. And once we've understood what went wrong, we can figure out whether there is room for a let's try something else approach. If there isn't room, we should not be rushing in, as I said, where angels fear to tread, fools rush in. We shouldn't do anything foolish. But I do believe that as a stakeholder in the survival of the global commons, we have a very big responsibility for ensuring that the world order doesn't crumble around us, that there isn't a vacuum in our backyard or in the Gulf or in the region. And those are all things that now our own credibility as a voice of the global South will be in question if we just remain a passive observer of everything collapsing around us.
All right, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, always a pleasure listening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. All the best.
எல்லாரும் பேசுவாங்க நான் காட்டுவேன் ரராஜதீப் சர்தேசாய் இந்தியன் பொலிட்டிக்கல் லீக் மைண்ட் இட்
তোমরা আজকে বাংলাকে দখল করার জন্য 90 লক্ষ লোকের নাম বাদ দিয়েছো। মনে রেখো তাতেও আমরা জিতব। আমি সুপ্রিম কোর্টে গিয়ে 32 লক্ষ লোকের নাম তুলেছি। আগামী দিন সবার নাম তুলব। আমার একটাই দুশ্চিন্তা, তাদের নামটা ভোটের পরে উঠলে তাদের অস্তিত্ব থাকবে, কিন্তু তারা ভোটটা দিতে পারবে না। বিজেপি তুমি এটাই চাও? পুরো গণতন্ত্রকে চৈত্র মাসের সেলের মতো বিক্রি করে দিয়েছো। তোমাদের জন্য কনসেশন আর সাধারণ মানুষের জন্য ডিলিশন।
Hi, Sana here with a quick AQI update. Delhi 192, Mumbai 97, Kolkata 80, Bangalore 99, Chennai 68, Hyderabad 159.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
LIC हर पल आपके साथ। जियो मार्ट टाइम और पैसे दोनों बचाए।
All right, a ceasefire on paper, but chaos on the ground. Strikes in Lebanon, threats of long war, and the Strait of Hormuz shut once again. Tensions are spiraling across West Asia, from sharp contradictions between the allies to growing doubts over US and Iran talks in Islamabad. The truce, that seems to be fraying very fast. Hello and welcome. This is 5 Live. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. These are the top 5 developments on war. We'll also take you through what else is happening in the country right after that. Let's start.
Number one, Iran has hardened its tone ahead of the crucial talks. State media has quoted a military spokesperson warning that negotiations must deliver or Tehran is ready for a long war. US and Pak not on the same terms about ceasefire deal. JD Vance now says that Lebanon is not part of the agreement, calling contrary claims a misunderstanding. But Shehbaz Sharif has suggested otherwise, even tagging Vance, while Pakistan's envoy doubles down, saying Lebanon is included. Iran shuts the Strait of Hormuz again after Israel strikes in Lebanon, a move that could choke global oil routes. The White House calls it completely unacceptable, while Caroline Leavitt sort of reiterating Donald Trump's demands to reopen the channel, even as efforts to keep talks alive, they continue. Iran hardens its tone ahead of the crucial talks. State media quotes a military spokesperson warning that negotiations must deliver or Tehran is ready for a long war as a sharp message on the ceasefire. Any violation or aggression will be met with swift, decisive response, signaling just how high the stakes really are now. And then the big question, will Islamabad talks even happen? Mohammad Bagher Ghaliba calls the negotiation unreasonable, accusing Washington of violating key conditions and adding to the uncertainty now. Iran's envoy to Pakistan deletes a post on the visit just minutes after putting that in, putting a big question mark over whether talks will really happen at all. Also, in an exclusive interview with India Today, former NATO commander General Sir Alexander Richard has launched a scathing attack on Donald Trump, calling the truce a massive humiliation of the administration and a clear strategic failure. A sharp assessment that raises serious questions over Washington's handling of the crisis. All right, those were the top 10 war, in fact, the top 5 war headlines. What else is making news? Well, polling is now on. Let's take you through all those states now. Prime Minister Modi is campaigning for BJP in Bengal, has given 6 guarantees to the people of the state as he took on TMC, the Trinamool Congress, over economic mismanagement and lawlessness in the state. During a rally in Haldia, Prime Minister Modi promised to establish the rule of governance and investigate every case of corruption throughout the infiltrators and implement the 7th Pay Commission if BJP is voted to power. Meanwhile, Sunetra Pawar, the wife of late NCP leader and Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar, is set to win the Baramati by-poll unopposed. This after the Congress withdrew its candidate. The Congress party has backed out as a mark of respect for Ajit Pawar, who died in a plane crash, if you'll remember, in January this year. The by-poll has been scheduled for the 23rd of April. Meanwhile, JDU Supremo Nitish Kumar and other top leaders of the party are headed towards the national capital. Nitish Kumar is to take oath as a Rajya Sabha MP tomorrow, and sources tell India Today that he is likely to resign as the Bihar's chief minister on the 14th of April and will meet BJP's central leadership over the leadership change in Bihar during that visit, which starts tomorrow. Sources also say that the Samrat Chaudhary is likely to succeed Nitish Kumar. Will that happen, or as always BJP will throw in a surprise googly? We'll have to see how that story develops. Also, massive controversy erupts in Madhya Pradesh's Indore after Congress councillors Fauzia Sheikh Leem and Rubika Iqbal declined to participate in the singing, of Vande Mataram during proceedings inside the House, while the BJP councillors have termed the refusal as an insult to the national sentiment. Congress councillors there have justified her stand, saying that Quran forbids Vande Mataram. And the Congress party will hold a meeting of its working committee on Friday. Sources say the party's top leadership is expected to deliberate on the government's move to amend the women's reservation law and the proposed delimitation exercise, the West Asia conflict during the meet. The meeting comes days ahead of the 3-day sitting and the Congress leader Gaurav Gogoi, the central faces in this electoral battle. Both two gentlemen who've had a very bitter and personal fight in this election against each other, their families, their wives as well, through the course of this election. And today is the day when their fate gets decided as well. Also remember, from early temple visits to aggressive campaigning, both camps made their final push as voting progressed through the day. Chief Minister Sarma also alleged that Gogoi and his wife Elizabeth have Pakistan links and demanded a probe. Congress hit back, claiming that Sarma's wife Riniki also holds multiple passports and has links to the US-based firm in Wyoming valued at around $34.67 billion. Now, while all of this political rhetoric continues, the result, the final, whether or not all of this has worked out, will be known on the 4th of May. Polling as we speak is now closed as of 2 minutes, back. So polling is now closed. The mandate is sealed in EVMs, with the big question being, will BJP return for a third term, or can Congress stage a comeback in a state which has been so closely and bitterly fought?
A fierce fight, the strongest jibes, high voter turnout. Assam had everything one could ask from an election. The state went to polls along with Kerala and Puducherry on Thursday. Spotlight remained on Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma and Assam Congress Chief Gaurav Gogoi. Sarma, contesting from Jalukbari, offered prayers at Dol Govinda Temple in North Guwahati before casting his vote. His wife, Rinki Bhuya Sarma, accompanied him.
असम का विकास के लिए वोट होना चाहिए, असम का डेवलपमेंट के लिए वोट होना चाहिए, सब वोट करें स्टेट का विकास के लिए।
विकास पूरे प्रदेश में घूमे, क्या ऐसे मुद्दे आपको लगता है कि लोग आके इस बार बीजेपी को दोबारा?
मेरा लगता है कि इस बार चुनाव थोड़ा सा वन साइडेड है।
Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi, son of late Chief Minister Tarun Gogoi, the state's longest-serving Chief Minister, cast his vote along with his mother. Gaurav Gogoi is contesting from Jorhat.
एक विरासत भी है, एक्सपेक्टेशंस का भी बोझ है। किस तरीके से आपको लगता है कि आज क्या होने वाला है?
नहीं, लोगों से जो आशीर्वाद मिला है और लोगों के बीच में जो उत्साह देखा है, जो उमंग हमने देखा है, तो मुझे लगता है कि असम के लोग असम की भविष्य की जो कमान है अपने हाथों में ले रही है और वापस असम में खुशहाली की असम और एकजुटता की असम और एक नए असम की कल्पना में लोग आए हैं। काफ़ी भीड़ हमने देखा है विभिन्न समयों में और मुझे पूरी आशा है कि आने वाले 4 तारीख को हमको एक सशक्त, सबल, सरल और एक सभ्य असम हमको दिखाई देगा।
Ma'am, umpteen number of elections and you've come and cast your vote. We were talking about the voter turnout. Will you appeal to the voters? And it's a big day for your son today. From father to son, the legacy is passed on.
Yeah, he's carrying his legacy. I think he will take it more forward. And I hope so the people will, Assam and people of Jorhat especially, I'm thankful to them what they have done for him in the Lok Sabha elections. I think the same results will come this time also.
Congress ally Rajor Dal Chief Akhil Gogoi is rooting for Gogoi as the next Chief Minister.
गवर्नमेंट चेंज करने के लिए लोग पूरा प्रस्तुत हो गया है। इस बार बीजेपी का गवर्नमेंट चला जाएगा और अपोजिशन का गवर्नमेंट आ जाएगा। गौरव गोगोई चीफ मिनिस्टर बनेगा।
Will Himanta-led BJP secure a third consecutive victory, or will Gogoi bring Congress back to power in its old bastion? The fate of the candidates is sealed in the EVMs, and the result will be out on May 4th. With Ashmita Saha Sinha and Priyanka Saharia, Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, let's cut across to our reporters now. Maushmi Singh is in Jorhat, Piyush Mishra in Guwahati. Let's get a word from both of them. Maushmi, if you look at the numbers as of this point, until 3 o'clock it was about 76%. It's only going to go up. Generally in an election on voting day, if the voting percentage is high, we say it's anti-incumbency. People came out to vote somebody out of power. But this time around, because of SIR and so many exclusions, one doesn't know how to sort of take these percentages in mind, right? What are you hearing on ground? What exactly was this post-SIR exercise really all about?
Sonal, good evening to all our viewers from Assam and Jorhat. And you know, we've been having dozens of Assam tea and really been upbeat because, you know, we were talking about the polling percentage, and the star power behind the polling percentage are these workers, these Anganwadi workers dressed in the beautiful traditional mekhela chadar, in the sense that you can see that they're all Anganwadi workers who are leaving the polling booth, and I caught up with them. They've been up and about since morning. And we've seen as the voters of Assam, Jorhat has clocked almost 73% overall percentage, as you just rightly pointed out. It's been like a flow of voters throughout the day. Rarely have I seen that even in the afternoons you won't see a dip in the voters. So that's a very, very important message. Aap log pure din se kaam kar rahe hain. We'll tell the story about the heroes behind the entire mammoth exercise, the dance of democracy. कितना मेहनत लगा पूरे दिन?
पूरा दिन, हाँ, सुबह 7 बजे से आए हैं. अभी मतलब गेट बंद हो गया 5 बजे, तो इसीलिए हम लोग बाहर निकले. हाँ, छुट्टी हो गया.
बहुत सुंदर जो ट्रेडिशनल अटायर.
थैंक यू. मेखला चादर और बिहू भी आ रहा है, इसलिए हम लोग ने सोचा बिहू का ही हम लोग एक तैयारी कर लिया.
थैंक यू आपको पूरी देश की तरफ से और असम की जनता की तरफ से. Truly, Sonal, this is the true spirit of democracy, where everybody is playing their part. And importantly, as you said, more than Assam, I think the SIR exercise has a bearing in West Bengal, and that's why we've seen a very bitter battle in West Bengal, where allegations and counter allegations have been flowing in thick and fast. As you said, even in Jorhat, there's been only a nominal about 25,000 decrease in voters as far as the entire exercise in the Jorhat assembly is concerned. And Jorhat being one of the VVIP seats, Gaurav Gogoi is contesting against a very veteran contester, Hitendranath Goswami, who is a very strong contender. He's been contesting elections and been 4-5 times MLA. He's been been a speaker. He's been in the thick of things, and he knows the politics of Jorhat very well. So we'll have to wait and see whether the parliamentarian can actually become a MLA from here, Gaurav Gogoi, scripting a new chapter in his political career.
And Maushmi, if I dare say, the Assam tea is clearly working on you as well. It's not just the women behind you or in the beautiful sari. I see how beautifully you are matched with them as well in what you chose to wear.
Absolutely.
So jealous of where you are and what you're doing. But probably we'll catch up over a cup of tea once you're back, and bring some for us, okay? Bring some of that lovely Assam tea so we can sit back and do some
I get some Assam tea for all of you, and they're in the studio.
Lovely. We've got it on record now. Maushmi, better bring it back.
I get some Assam tea for you.
Yes, great. Let me cut across to Piyush Mishra. Piyush, I don't know if you managed to get some Assam tea or no, and I don't know how the temperatures are over there, but this has to be one state where I dare say that it's been so little about local issues and so much about the personal life of the politicians. This entire campaign, we've seen personal hotshots being taken at them, wives' passports being dug up, threats of coming in of inquiries, CBI, ED, all of that being picked up as well. So little talk of what Assam people really need. Is that the sense that you picked up when voters walked up to the booths today, and they have in huge numbers? What are they thinking? What issues were dominating their mind?
Well, Suran, let me answer your first question. I've traveled to Assam from length and breadth during the course of campaigning and covered the campaign of various political parties. And yes, I was lucky to manage to get 3 good packets of Assam tea. And I can also tell to Mosmi after this chat about from where she can buy the special Assam tea. And if you talk about the issues, there are multiple issues. There are multiple issues now, Yes, there are multiple issues on which people are voting. One certainly is about the illegal infiltration. Another is about the money which has been directly submitted in the accounts of women. And third is about the development. One thing is clear that people are happy about the development, but at the same point, they are not happy with the kind of promise which was made by the BJP as far as throwing out infiltrators is concerned. Yes, a lot of politics has taken place on this, where Assam Chief Minister has gone to various parts of the state and has said that after we form the government, we will ensure that these illegal infiltrators are politically weakened. But the point here is that the BJP had its government in the last 10 years, but they could not throw even one Bangladeshi. And that's what the opposition also raises, that why you did not take action, why are you making promises now? But at the same time, people are really happy about the fact that yes, development has happened. They are happy that the promises those who are made to women, those promises have been fulfilled. But on the other side, Congress has been lashing out at BJP saying that no such promises have been fulfilled. Now we'll have to wait and watch how people have given out their verdict, because yes, EVMs are sealed. All these EVMs now will be counted on May 4, and then only the final verdict will be out. But as far as BJP and NDA is concerned, BJP is very much hopeful. They are now riding on pro-incumbency. They are saying that this time they will get more than 75 in their kitty, and NDA will get more than 90, which means they are very much hopeful that 90 to 95 will be there for NDA. Now it remains to be seen, will this calculation be actually turned out as per according to what these leaders are predicting?
All right, Piyush and Mosmi, thank you so much. Remember your promises for the tea. We shall catch you on the other side. The fate for Assam has been logged, and we shall know all the result, enjoying some tea with it on the 4th of May. All right, enough about tea from Assam. What about the coffee from Kerala? Well, that's where we are going next. If Assam had 65, Kerala is not very far behind. Until about 3 p.m. today, the voter turnout there recorded was 62.71%, a strong showing in the high-stakes electoral battle. With the ruling left front pushing for another term, the Congress-led UDF eyeing a comeback, and the BJP looking to expand its footprint. The contest is pretty much wide open. A mix of pro and anti-incumbency sentiments at play, possible impact of the SIR exercise as well on voter mobilization, and heavyweight campaigns by LDF, UDF and BJP sort of boosting turnout over there. Also, in the state of Kerala, first-time voters adding fresh energy to the electoral process, and a highly educated, politically aware electorate is stepping out in large numbers. Momentum is strong through the day, was seen at least, and now all eyes again on May 4th, where the results will be out.
Kerala voted on Thursday with lakhs lining up early at polling booths. The state is witnessing a three-cornered fight between LDF, UDF and NDA. The ruling LDF, led by CM Pinarayi Vijayan, is banking on its governance record and welfare schemes to secure a rare third consecutive mandate.
കാരണം നമ്മൾ ഒരു വികസിത കേരളത്തിലേക്ക് നല്ല ചുവടുവെച്ച് നിർത്തി ഒരുപാട് നേട്ടങ്ങൾ എല്ലാ മേഖലകളിലും കൈവരിക്കാൻ നമുക്ക് കഴിയും.
LDF definitely will get the third chance, because all the developmental projects the government has carried out during this time. If you look around, you can see what dramatic and what a fantastic changes has happened in the town.
The Congress-led UDF is hoping to capitalize on anti-incumbency and local issues, projecting a strong comeback in key districts.
Now I have a feeling that there is a huge trend in favor of UDF in Kerala, and there is a large level anti-incumbency against the government.
The BJP-led NDA is aiming to improve its vote share and convert pockets of support into seats in a state where it has historically struggled.
We have placed forth in front of the people a very, very positive agenda of Viksit Kerala. എല്ലാവരുടെ ഒപ്പം എല്ലാവർക്കും വേണ്ടി सबका साथ सबका विकास, a vision of a strong, vibrant, debt-free Viksit Kerala.
This election is going to be a milestone in the political history of Kerala. This will be termed as a first step towards creating a Kerala which is a developed Kerala.
It's a high-stakes triangular contest in Nemam as BJP's Rajiv Chandrasekhar faces off with CPM and State Minister V. Shivankutti and Congress's K.S. Shabrinathan. CM Vijayan is seeking a historic third consecutive term on his home turf. In Peravoor, it's high-stakes battle between LDF candidate and former Health Minister K.K. Shailaja and incumbent Congress MLA and State Party Chief Sunny Joseph. In Karakutam, it's a triangular battle between Kadakambally Surendran of LDF, BJP's V. Muralidharan and Congress's Sharad Chandra Prasad. Many celebrities lined up to cast their vote. Superstar Mohanlal and CPM candidate from Nemam, Minister V. Shivankutti and Congress candidate Shabrinathan were seen together at a polling station in Thiruvananthapuram. Superstar Mammootty, Prithviraj Sukumaran, Kunjako Boban, Fahad Fasil, controversial actor Dileep and Ranji Panikkar also cast their vote.
BJP is not afraid of the LDF. It is in a small state in the bottom of the India. Their main opponent in the national level is Congress.
Key issues dominating this election include unemployment, price rise, welfare delivery and development. First-time voters and women voters are expected to play a crucial role, with all parties making targeted outreach efforts in the run-up to polling day. It's a direct face-off between continuity and change, with all three fronts locked in an intense battle to sway voters and reshape the state's political landscape. With Akshita Nandagopal, Shibi and Nagarjun Dwarkanath in Keralam, Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, cutting across to my colleague Shibi Mol, who is joining us from Trivandrum this evening. Shibi, firstly, I just want to say some fantastic reports have come through you over the course of the election. So big congratulations. Now is the time that board exams are over, right? Till the time the results come in to go back and chill. Now that we can actually talk, give me an inside story that you've not put on air yet. Give me something which has gone behind the scenes in this election. That's something that you haven't spoken about.
Okay, Sonal, I was actually checking the polling percentage to give you an update, but I didn't expect this question. I think the way people have become very silent about their opinions because, we went around at least 60-70 constituencies across the state in the last 1 month. It's very difficult for people. Like, I've tried to sit very close to people, to elderly women without my mic and camera and just talk to them in person to understand what they are, what they feel about the government or what they feel about the opposition, but they've been very silent. They've taken this neutral stand that it's become very difficult to, read the minds of voters. That I think this is one of the very unpredictable elections that we're witnessing in this state. You speak to any senior journalists who have covered elections over the years in Kerala. Most of them have this opinion that it's very unpredictable, that we're not able to understand the mind of voters. That was not the case in Kerala 5 years before. There was a clear-cut edge or there was a clear-cut understanding, at least on ground, but we're not getting that. So this is a very unpredictable election. We tried. I challenged myself to come to one last figure for LDF and UDF and the NDA by the end of the election coverage. But on the polling day, I'm still confused. I do not have an answer. So I think that's been the most standout factor
ballot,
for me in this election in Kerala.
Yeah,
and
so
I think
generally a secret ballot means that it's anti the current government. Generally a secret ballot means that. But again, like you're saying, that there are new players, it's a three-cornered fight at the moment, so we really don't know which way this will go. And again, if you look at numbers, the latest numbers, please throw us that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So even when the polling percentage increases, you naturally feel like there's an anti-incumbency, and it's that wave that's working against the government. But in the last election in Lok Sabha, the voter turnout was really less. Usually voter turnout less means it's an advantage to the LDF. But for the Lok Sabha, the UDF had almost a clean sweep in Kerala. So the voting pattern and the way people think and cast their vote in Kerala is completely changed. And with a new player like BJP emerging in Kerala, it looks like we have constituencies where it's become three-cornered fight. And in some constituencies, they might not win, but they can decide who's going to emerge victorious. So a lot of seats are there in Kerala where, when you speak to UDF and LDF workers, they say it all depends on how many votes the BJP is going to get in that constituency. So the dynamics in Kerala has changed. It's an election and a result that will, change the future political dynamics in Kerala. I think that's what is going to happen after 4th. But if there is an undercurrent that we are not witnessing, then of course it is advantage UDF because they have been in opposition for 10 years. And Kerala is a society that likes to, keep changing their governments, that likes to keep criticizing and scrutinize their people in power. So in that case,
but this time the pattern only changed altogether. That's something that we look forward to. Shibi, go have some coconut water, get your coffee in place because 4th is not very far away, and that's when we'll hear all of this as well. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us an insight into a reporter's mind who's covering election. All right, so let's move on to the other big state. This time we're moving to Puducherry, all set to wrap up voting in what has been a high voltage and closely watched battle for the Union Territory. Now, all 30 constituencies went to polls today with nearly 300 candidates in a contest where every vote could tilt the balance there. But polling day was not without controversy. Tensions flared up in Thirukkanur, where Congress and BJP workers clashed outside the polling booth, forcing police to resort to lathi charge to restore order. Those pictures on your screen there. In a separate flashpoint, allegations of voter inducement surfaced with claims of 15,000 gift coupons being distributed, triggering protests and clashes, this time between DMK and NR Congress supporters, and also requiring police intervention on that one. So while voting has concluded, questions over conduct and complaints of violations have added a layer of tension to an already tight contest there. The key question now is, will the NDA led by Narendra Modi and Swami there retain control, or can the Congress-DMK alliance fronted by Rahul Gandhi and MK's channel mount a comeback? Or will the wildcard actor turned politician Vijay, making his electoral debut, be able to shake up traditional vote banks there as well? The three-way contest. Who will Puducherry elect? We caught up with the Chief Minister. All right, before we go to that, let's cut across to my colleague Apurva, who's joining us from Puducherry. Apurva, a day of a lot of clashes, a lot of heated interventions that the police had to step in. You're looking visibly tired after a long day as well. It's been a long election campaign. Give us an insight into what does the voting percentage at this moment indicate to you? What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, Sonal, it's been around 3 p.m. of this afternoon. We haven't got the 5 p.m. results yet, but it looks like a very good turnover for around 3 p.m. Over 72% of voter polling count. That's what has come out as well. 72% of people in Puducherry, around, that's roughly 72% of 9.5 lakh voters in Puducherry here who have gone ahead and exercised their right to vote. And looks like 5 p.m. numbers are only going to keep increasing. That's almost if it crosses above 82, that's almost more than what Puducherry had seen as the numbers last time. That is around 82% was the total voter turnout there. But interestingly enough, it looks like Puducherry's election has a lot of drama added to it this year as well. We're not only seeing clashes that took place, erupted between BJP and Congress workers there right after Home Minister Namashivayam had come out after casting his vote. Police had to, use force, use lathi charge to disperse these crowds, these cadres who had gone ahead and been fighting. But not only that, we're also seeing that on the other side of Puducherry as well, we're seeing a couple of voters alleging that one Congress candidate from Yanam there had gone ahead. The cadres also of that said candidate there had also gone ahead and said if they vote for him,